Next on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And Harvard Business School Baker Library, featuring an exhibit on Muriel Siebert, the first woman to buy a seat on the New York Stock Exchange, open to the public. Details at library.hbs.edu. Calling all Thunderheads. Celtic Thunder returns to New England, and we have exclusive tickets to their show. We also look back at the moments that made them so popular. Watch Celtic Thunder, Ireland, tonight at 7:30 on GBH2.
This week on Under the Radar with Callie Crossley, Boston is home to some of the nation's richest musical legacies. The legendary Fort Apache Studio marks its 40th anniversary, and two award-winning local songwriters share career highlights, the past, present, and future of Boston's music scene. That's Under the Radar with me, Callie Crossley, Sunday night at 6 here on 89.7 GBH and the GBH app.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Jim Browdy, head on BPR and GBH and NEPM live from the BPL. The shore is on our minds this Friday, so we'll open the phone and text lines to talk with you. With beach closures for cyanobacteria, bird nesting, and our draconian state laws, what's lost when you can't get to the water's edge? Call or text. Then it's Boston Globe business columnist Shirley Leung and Live Music Friday with a violinist unlike you've ever heard, Rhett Price.
I'm Marjorie Yegan. In the second hour is PBS European travel guru Rick Steves, just back from his own odyssey to the Greek islands. Then with the latest from the Lindsay Clancy triple murder trial, is media maven Sue O'Connell. We'll end the show with you and pickleball. Over in Mashpee, strung out residents say the thwacking and the thumping has gotten out of hand on the pickleball court. What is your stance? Take a swing at it next on BPR, live from the Boston Public Library.
News in Washington, I'm Windsor Johnston. Luigi Maggioni is set to appear in federal court in Manhattan at this hour. He's expected to plead guilty to charges connected to the shooting death of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. A murder trial in state court is set for next month. President Trump is asking the Supreme Court to lift a block on construction for the White House ballroom. NPR's Carrie Johnson reports the administration says a lower court order to stop the work is unlawful.
Solicitor General John Sauer says the ongoing construction is vital for national security. In a new filing with the Supreme Court, Sauer says a single district judge should not be able to decide what's necessary to protect the president and staff at the White House. President Trump's taken a special interest in the renovations, which he says will include a highly secure ballroom and crucial national security features. His lawyers say the National Trust for Historic Preservation has not suffered any real injury. A divided federal appeals court panel ruled the issue is for Congress to decide and that the president is a temporary tenant, not the owner of the White House. Carrie Johnson, NPR News.
Retail spending, which is a key economic measure, declined in July for the first time in months. Spending is down 0.6% compared to June, according to the latest report from the Commerce Department. NPR's Alina Selyuk has more.
In July, compared to June, people spent a bit less on autos and auto parts, on electronics, and at gas stations, as gas prices had dipped a bit. But the big reason why retail sales fell in July compared to June seems to do with Prime Day. It's a big sales event that was previously in July, but this year was moved to June. And so online sales fell 2.2% month to month. Now, comparing the spending to last year, sales grew almost across the board, with people buying more clothes and gardening supplies. Spending at restaurants and bars was up 5%, and higher gas prices had people spending more at gas stations by 16% from a year ago. Alina Selyuk, NPR News.
Ukraine is stepping up drone attacks on Russian-occupied Crimea. NPR's Greg Myrie reports the strikes have disrupted power, fuel supplies, and cell phone service across the peninsula.
Early Thursday, Ukrainian drones knocked out electricity in Sevastopol, the biggest and most important city in Crimea. Now, power was restored after several hours, But these are now everyday events. Electricity and cell phone service is going out for days at a time. Water also gets cut off. Fuel is scarce and has been rationed. People say shops are often closed.
That's NPR's Greg Myrie reporting from Kyiv. On Wall Street, the Dow was down 62 points. This is NPR News in Washington.
Good morning. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Marilyn Schera, in for Henry Santoro. Lawrence Mayor Brian DePena was arrested today and charged with pandemic loan fraud and money laundering. The 61-year-old DePena is charged with fraudulently obtaining over $1.5 million in COVID small business loans, according to the U.S. Attorney's Office in Massachusetts. He then allegedly used the proceeds to fund his campaign account, pay personal taxes, and pay off more than $880,000 in high-interest mortgages on various properties he owns in Lawrence. DePena is expected to appear in federal court in Boston on the charges today. Award-winning chef Tiffany Faizone's two well-known restaurants in the Fenway area are closing. Faizone says she will be closing Sweet Cheeks Q and Fool's Errand after 15 years since she decided to not renew the lease. She cites rising costs and high tariffs and calls the closure heartbreaking. The closure is set for November 24th. The New England Patriots tied their season opener with the Colts at 13 apiece. Their next preseason game is against the Eagles Saturday, August 22nd at Gillette at 7 o'clock. And the Red Sox beat the Blue Jays yesterday. They head to Pittsburgh tonight to play the Pirates at 6:40. The weather forecast, a beautiful day today, highs near 83 with a slight chance of a late-day shower. Clear and cool tonight, low around 61, and a pleasant weekend ahead. Sunny, highs in the low 80s with a chance of rain late Sunday. It's 78 degrees in Boston. I'm Marilyn Schera. You're listening to GBH News. For more original reporting, visit gbhnews.org.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Bayer, who believes science is the relentless process of asking questions, testing, and trying again, even when it's not easy. Learn more at ScienceDelivers.com. This is NPR.
He's Jim Browdy. I am Marjorie Egan. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, GBH and NEPM. Thank you. Live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. We're going to have some really fantastic live music in just a few minutes. Plus, travel guru Rick Steves is going to zoom in, and Sue O'Connell is she's been covering the Lindsay Clancy murder trial is admitted to killing her 3 children. She's been there every day. She's going to give us the latest updates on that. Hello, Jim.
Hello, Marjorie. As we head into the dog days of summer, we're going to open the lines to ask you about your beach-going activities. In Duxbury, Billy Baker writes in the Globe, residents are vying for beach access with nesting shorebirds. All along the coast, piping plover nesting areas are often taped off with explicit instructions for beachgoers not to disturb the area. That's great for the birds. What about us? And by the way, we should be clear, wildlife protections, Marjorie and I, are generally 100% behind.
We like the piping plovers.
We do like them. In
Very
any case,
much.
There's also something that Marjorie complains about all the time. Like 40 beaches closed because of cyanobacteria or other bacteria exceedance is the term. But that's not even the biggest problem. This is the biggest problem. There are the wealthiest among us who think they own the seashore, sometimes calling the cops on people walking their portion of the sand and sea. Here's the law in Massachusetts. In Massachusetts, property owners own to the low tide line. We, the public, have a right to fish, to navigate, and to foul, whatever foul means. F-O-W-L.
It's shooting birds.
How the hell do you know what it is? You don't know what it is?
I looked it up this morning.
Oh,
that's what it means. That's
okay,
what it
whatever.
means.
You can
I don't see too many people down at the shoreline with
rifles. What's navigate mean?
Navigate?
You don't know what that means either.
It means you get in a boat, Jim.
And you navigate.
Okay, that's right.
You can navigate, you can fish, you can foul along the shoreline. The courts have actually ruled the public right to the shoreline does not include the right to even walk, sunbathe, or whatever it is. Some legislators are trying to add the word recreate to foul, fish, and navigate. And by the way, if you read Chris Burrell, our colleague who's done great work on this, 12%, only 12% of the coastline in this state is open. Well, it's not even open in all cases, but available to the public. So beach access and you Have you lost out on beach time to the birds, bacteria, Brahmins, NIMBY town managers, or some combo of the four? And what should be done about it? Give us a call or text, 877-301-8970.
Okay, I just want to straighten out the meaning of fouling, Jim. It's hunting, shooting, or trapping wild birds for food. You don't see that going on very much at the beach.
How many people in the audience have fouled in the last 12 months?
Very many.
So it's not that valuable.
No, it's not that valuable. But one of the things you didn't mention is places like Marshfield, Scituate, and Ipswich. You can't park at the beach, or there's very limited parking if you don't live in Marshfield, Scituate, or Ipswich.
What's worse than that?
And the problem is that the state is paying for update of those beaches, so Massachusetts taxpayers are paying for update of those beaches and seawalls and stuff, but you may not be able to get a parking space.
You want me to fix that law in 2 seconds?
Certainly.
If you're getting $1 of taxpayer money beyond the borders of your city or town,
you got to open
it's got to be open to the public,
Yep.
and if it's not, you don't get the tax money. And that, however, and by the way, you know who the champion of beach access has been in the, I don't know how long, 40 years I've lived in Massachusetts? Bill Bulger, brother of Whitey Bulger.
Yep.
He was obsessed with this thing. And there have been attempts to take some of this land by eminent domain, but then the fear is it'll be considered a taking and the state will have to compensate people. But it seems to me the proposal, I think by the state senator and the rep from the Cape, to add the word recreate, meaning you can do fun stuff on somebody else's property above the low tide line. Why isn't it the high tide line, by the way? Why couldn't it be the high tide line?
If you want to walk on the beach in Massachusetts, you have to walk in the water.
You do? Literally, you do. Or you have to go fouling.
Although I see, yeah, that's right. Maybe Whitey Bulger would like to do some fouling along the shoreline. I don't know. Texter is reporting that in Duxbury Beach, which I guess gets closed, a large portion of it, maybe the whole thing, for the piping plovers. The piping plovers have hatched, and they are migrating, so the fences on the Duxbury Beach are gone. 877-301-8970 is the number. Do you feel deprived in the summertime that you can't go enough of the beaches, the ocean beaches, mostly that people are talking about, or even the town beaches in your town? And you know what is really terrible? We have this list of
this is
ponds
a cyanobacteria
that
thing?
are closed. I mean, how many? This is like, what, 50 ponds are closed and lakes are closed because of cyanobacteria. It's terrible.
Yeah.
877-301-8970 is the number if you're upset about this. Property owners own up to the, not the high tide line, but the low tide line. Yeah, and that's where Massachusetts is different. In other states, it's the high tide line.
Well, and that was my point. Why can't you change that? And again, that might be seen as a taking, and they might go to court, but then let them challenge the damn thing. Because it's, by the way, it really is outrageous. This is not faux anger. Doesn't it drive you nuts that you can't get access to beaches? 88% of the coastline of this state is unavailable to mere mortals. What do you think of that?
Well, I think if you want to go to some of these very popular beaches, especially in the North Shore, and you want to get there and you're not from there, then you got to get there really early to find a place to park.
Well, actually, remember what Katie Theorides, who runs Trustees of Reservation, told us last year?
What?
Which my kid has used, one of my kids has used. You can now make a reservation, at least at Wingershik, I think, one of those beaches
That's
up
in
there.
Gloucester.
You can make a parking reservation online and pay for it, and you get in at a specific time, so you have to stand in line for hours and hours. 877-301-8970. We'll take some calls. Nick in Hartford, you're next on BPR. Welcome to the show. Hi.
Hey, guys. How's your Friday going?
Pretty
Very
well,
well,
I'd say,
actually.
yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, what's up?
No, I just wanted to say I agree that if there's any sort of public funds going to assist with trying to mitigate the effects of coastline erosion, people should at least be allowed to walk. I understand if people don't want people like leaving trash or whatever on their beach, and this is probably as much of a compromise as I'll make with these. For example, I think golf courses should all be public. There should be no private golf courses. But when it comes to our shared coastline, there should be a bit more flexibility by the legislature for this.
You know what this pathetic legislature would do, though? They would say you can walk across people's property above the low tide line, but you can't pause. Meaning, as long as you keep moving, it's perfectly fine. By the way, that to me seems to be a totally reasonable compromise, what Nick is talking about, which is not a taking. Allowing someone to cross your property as they're walking seems to be great.
But you do see,
Nick,
I mean, in fairness, I mean, I spent a lot of time at the beach down the Cape, and people do walk. I've walked across where there are people's private homes.
Can I tell you something?
What?
They can stop you. It's
No,
not fishing, fouling, or
It's
navigating.
There's something wrong where it's okay to stand there with a shotgun and shoot foul, but it's not okay to walk across there. But they don't stop you
How do
in
you
general.
fish if you can't stand on the property?
Well, you have to stand in the water. That's the point. You got to be.
You
got to
do?
be. Well, yes, you have to be below. Well, I don't know about that. I don't know enough about fouling, Jim. But I know that
No,
you
I'm
can
talking
walk.
about fishing, not fouling.
It was the same thing. I think I don't know
You
enough
have to
exactly
shoot
where
the
you have to
bird
stand.
from the water?
I guess so. I don't know. I've never seen it. But I do know, at least the beaches I go to, the big Craigville beach down the Cape, you can walk in front of people's property
The
there.
fact that you can doesn't mean that you are legally entitled to.
Well, I just
would
never
like
see. I
legal
never see
protection.
people being arrested or anything like that for doing it.
Okay, Tom, you're in nobody's calling from Massachusetts. They're all from Connecticut or Florida. Tom, you're in Naples, Florida. Welcome to the show. What's the deal in Florida?
Well, it's the same type of thing, but my point is, can't we sacrifice anything as humans? I mean,
No.
these birds are having their babies right now.
Oh, that we should do.
It's like,
I agree.
It's like, do we want to walk through the maternity ward and we get upset if we can't? So, I mean, you got to think about the reality of these birds. These are their babies.
We're fine with the
And,
bird
you know-
protection thing. It's not the bird protection. It's the other protection that's driving us nuts.
Well, not everybody's fine. I mean, Billy Baker's got a piece in the Globe today, and that's what he's talking about, Tom, that people are upset in Duxbury. Some guy was complaining he drove up to Duxbury Beach, and he couldn't get in there because the piping plovers were there. But, and the turns.
Well, that's what I mean. I used to live in Duxbury.
You did?
And I'd go across Powder Point Bridge, and occasionally parts were closed. And even as a young kid, I respected the fact that these mothers are having babies right now. Do I really have to drive my four-wheel drive through here today and drink beer on the beach?
You should be
I
dating
respect the
Cy
fact that they're having
Montgomery,
babies?
Tom.
Tom,
Cy,
hey, Tom.
I love
Cy,
her.
I think you're wrong about Florida. I don't mean to be disrespectful. Can you, Jamie, take a look at this? I was under the impression that Florida, other than having Ron DeSantis, which obviously is a real problem, other than DeSantis, I was under the impression that beaches were pretty much accessible almost without exception.
Didn't you read the text?
I did. Go ahead, read
That
it.
in Florida, Donald Trump owns the sand, and you can only stay on the sand if you're inside a catering car.
That's exactly right.
So
Thank you.
that's a good
Tom,
one.
thanks for calling
But
in. Take care of yourself.
I don't know. He's gone now. But
he is gone now.
These oversized
Not gone,
vehicles that rattle around the sand, do we need those? I don't
No.
think those are probably very environmentally
but they
good.
have to be fishing, fouling, or navigating, by the way. Who came up with that? Who was responsible?
Well, that's what's
Like
so ridiculous.
Benjamin
Well,
Franklin, or who was
colonial ordinance of 1941 to 1947, but they say this harkens back to ancient laws, to ancient Roman laws, according to the Massachusetts Office of Coastal Zone Management. Maybe we can, revise that. It's been a couple of thousand years since the Roman laws were made.
I
You
think
know
it
what I mean,
was. A
Jim?
couple of texts that bear reading.
Mhm.
Anonymous texter. I recently had friends from college visit from California. They spent 2 nights in Chatham and said they never saw the ocean. You either need a house on the water or be a resident to even see the ocean in Chatham. It's absurd. And another anonymous texter said, I heard Jim was thrown off the beach. He said he was fouling, but he was looking for fried chicken and fries. They said the fries didn't count. Thank you
It's a
very much.
good one. Jody
It's
and
not that
Canton,
good,
thank you for
actually.
calling.
Hello, Jody.
Hi, love you guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
This subject is infuriating
Me
to
too.
me. I mean, if you have to pay taxes, why are we paying for their private beaches? Why? We should be able to use it. It should be public, like in Hawaii. Every beach is public.
I didn't know
they
that.
have to have a public access. Even if it's a fancy hotel, there has to be a public access, and there has to be public parking in Hawaii.
That's fabulous. That is fabulous. By the way, Jody, you know what we're going to do? You made me think. When Governor Healy is with us in September, we don't have a date yet, we're going to ask her, what leader would not support some compromise here, including no tax dollars for state tax dollars for a community if they don't make their beaches open to everybody.
Well,
Jody, thanks.
I think some of the leaders in these small towns. Listen to this: Marshfield received $1.2 million from the state last fall to renourish a critically eroded shoreline along its Bay Avenue beach. Situate got $2 million.
Wait, and they don't let people in there, right?
They have a small number of parking spaces for non-residents, so
You
you're going to
think
get there
that's a
really early
problem?
in the morning. Well, I think it probably is a problem. Situate won a nearly $2 million grant last fall to replenish all these 26,000 cubic yards of sand and gravel at the North Situate Beach. There, they sell just a few hundred beach stickers to non-residents, and they cost $350.
That's outrageous. It really is outrageous.
It's outrageous, says Jim.
Dee Dee, you're in Ipswich. You're next on BPR. Welcome to the show. Hi.
Hey, how are you?
We're pretty good, I think. Hi, how are you?
Great.
Good.
Very good. Very good. So I'm actually sharing the fact that I moved up to Ipswich in 2011, and my best part about getting here was that I got to get onto the beach for $20 a year.
That's great.
And I have to say it's really upsetting that people don't have the same access that I do. I think it's very exclusive, and anyone should be able to access our beautiful shores. I always offer people my car because I have the sticker, or we have a boat, and I'd love to take them out. I just don't think it's fair. We have a small beach called Pavilion, and a person in the town actually brought, I don't know how you describe it, but they put into legislation to be able to make our Pavilion Beach exclusive so that only residents can be there. And I think it's unacceptable. So your car gets towed or you get ticketed.
It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
The back in May, I think it was May, the select board there voted to tighten the beach access, voting to ban non-residents from beach parking throughout the summer.
Is this Ipswich?
This is Ipswich, and increase parking fines around that beach from $30 to $50.
Hey, Dee Dee, before
and
you go...
prevent non-residents from parking in the neighborhood. Listen to this. This will prevent non-residents from parking in the neighborhoods and walking to the beach, said the chief of police. Wow, they're really tough up there.
There also is an amendment that says you can't breathe near the beach either. They're trying, so they create a buffer zone. Dee Dee, before you go away, when you say you lend your car to people because it's got a sticker, these are people who are friends, I assume. Like, yes?
Well, I might let you borrow my car, Jim, if you're kind to me.
That actually was my point. Dee Dee, thanks for the call. We really appreciate it. That's a good soul, by the way, a decent human being.
Oh, I'm being corrected
Dee Dee, thanks.
by Benjamin in Brighton when I said the colonial ordinances were 1941. They were 1641 to 1647 to incentivize construction of wharfs and piers in the Massachusetts Bay Colony.
Yeah.
I don't think we have that reason anymore, do we?
I'm not sure.
877-301-8970 is the number. Paul from West Roxbury, thank you
for
calling.
Yes, thank you for taking my call.
Sure.
I was just, over the years, I've been frustrated that all these pretty much wealthy beach or waterfront properties are making all these demands that you're discussing.
Yeah.
And yet, anytime there's a hurricane, they're the first one to the State House saying, look, we need some help.
Great point.
Yeah.
So what would you do if you were a state legislator, Paul, and they sought help? What would you do if you were a state legislator, not from that community? The community is damaged by a storm. They come to this, and this is a community that doesn't allow beach access to anybody except those who live there, and they come for help to the State House. What do you do?
Well, you can't do things on the spot. You have to do it preemptively, previously.
Okay, so what should the law be? What should the law be?
If you're going to demand people not to come onto your property on the beach, then put it into some law. A hurricane comes, apply for your own insurance.
I'm with you, Paul. Thank you much for the call.
Well, I think what you could do is just say that if you're going to take money from the state of Massachusetts to fix your beach, then you've got to allow people from Massachusetts to go. 877-301-8970 is the number. Lisa from Rhode Island has got beautiful beaches, tons of beaches. Hi, glad you called, Lisa.
Hi there.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
A few years ago, I think like 3 years ago, Rhode Island made all public access to all beaches, even if you own the property.
Wow.
So it's like 10 feet from the high tide line where it's marked by seaweed.
So what do you mean?
You can walk on it. You can sit on it.
So
nobody owns the shore.
Wow, I didn't know that.
All public is what she's saying. That's pretty incredible. Now, Lisa, you may not know this, but in Massachusetts, the argument against doing exactly that is that it would be a taking under the Constitution, and the property owners, and essentially the state is taking their property. to which they had exclusive access, and they'd have to be compensated, which would be immense. Was that an issue in Rhode Island, or you don't know?
I don't believe so. I can't even imagine that. No.
But I know
taxes would have went up if that was the case.
But
we
Lisa,
have a lot of shoreline.
I know you
Lisa,
do.
I think there are parts of Newport that where you have to belong to certain parts of the beach to go, or in Narragansett, there's parts of Rhode Island. There's beach clubs, right? Remember Sheldon Whitehouse? They were talking about.
Go ahead, Lisa.
Correct. But those are higher up. The clubhouse is higher, but where the high tide line is, you can walk and sit 10 feet above that high
That's
tide
fabulous.
line.
That's great. I think that's great. And by the way, Lisa, thanks for the call. The least the legislature could be doing is moving the rights of the property owner from the low tide line to the high tide line.
Yeah.
It's a lot of ground.
We're unusual.
We are unusual.
We're very unusual. You know what's great?
No.
Most days you can swim in Boston Harbor now. If you go over to South Boston, you go over to Castle Island, you can swim there. I mean, that is a real happy result of all that legislation years ago, the mass water resources, when they cleaned up the Boston Harbor. I mean, most of the time you can swim, and that's a public beach. It's open to everybody. You can usually park there,
Can
too.
I ask you a legal question?
Yes, Jim.
This is from an anonymous texter, and I think you're the person to answer it. For the beach access discussion, which is what we're having, why isn't walking from one side of the property to the other along the water considered navigating? Marjorie, please take that.
Well, I'm not sure, Jim, but I think that's because you navigate in something like you're navigating in the car or on the bike or in the boat, but I could be wrong.
You could be wrong.
Would you like to answer that question?
No, I wouldn't. But it's an excellent question, and we will refer it to our legal team in the very near future.
Okay, let's squeeze in one more call here. Bob from Northborough, thank you for calling.
Hi, Bob.
Hi.
Hi.
The lakes, a lot of these lakes around Massachusetts are locked up where owners, I can hear myself.
That's okay.
That's
I'm
okay.
sorry. It's our fault.
All
It's
the
Jamie's
property
fault.
around they own all the property around the lake, and you can't get your boat in.
It's horrible.
Or you can't use it.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
Why don't you organize the neighbors and storm the lake, Rob? Have you thought about that?
Yeah.
I'm serious. I mean, it's ridiculous.
But don't some of the big lakes, Long Pond and Harwich, I think that's the biggest lake in the Cape. They have these public access places. I mean, what lakes are you talking about, Rob?
There's a small lake in Northborough. I can't think of the name right now, but it's surrounded by camps, houses, and you just can't use it except the owners. And there's several other lakes like that in Massachusetts.
Oh, there definitely are. There absolutely are. Rob,
Well,
thanks for the call.
Michelle,
Good luck to you.
Thank you, Rob. Michelle in Chatham, New Hampshire says, well, we don't have sidewalks in New Hampshire. We've made some fun of that. We have a lot of lake shoreline and a little ocean available to the public. Winnipesaukee is a huge lake that people can go to. You heard of that, too?
I have.
Okay.
Why doesn't the legislature do anything about this? Would you not agree that unless you live in one of these little coastal towns, everybody in Massachusetts is on one side of this?
Yeah, you ask me all the time why the legislature
Well,
doesn't do
I'm asking
anything
again.
about
Why
it.
aren't they doing it?
Because they do nothing about almost anything, which is really too bad. But since most people don't get involved in their legislature, that kind of
Why
keeps
don't you
happening.
champion this issue, by the way? I mean, I'm serious. You're like a Cape person part-time. You understand the issues.
I do understand the issues.
You are the only person I knew who knows the definition of fouling, which would help you if you were lobbying at the State House and a legislator said, Ms. Egan, what is fouling?
How long do you think you'd last on the shoreline of the state of Massachusetts if you were there with your rifle shooting birds? I just don't see.
A texter said it isn't a rifle; it's a shotgun.
Okay, well, even worse. I just don't see how that's going to work out. But we are out of time. We're going to move on here.
That's really
Thank you
sad.
very much for your calls and texts. After this quick break, we're going to talk with Boston Globe business columnist Shirley Leung, who's back from vacation. We're going to talk about Harvard winning a court settlement against the Trump administration about anti-Semitism, and she's also going to update us on Boston's wealth gap. Shirley Leung from the Globe is next. You're listening to Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH, live from the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
New federal student loan caps are taking effect, and some students are reconsidering where or if they can afford to go to graduate school.
Because of these new restrictions, this is no longer seeming like a possibility.
This battle for control is raising big questions about who should manage billions of dollars in financial aid and research funding. I'm Kirk Carapezza. We're examining the growing power struggle over the future of American higher education on the latest episode of College Uncovered. Find it wherever you get your podcasts.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And the Museum of Science. From live science demonstrations to hands-on exhibits, families can explore the wonders of Earth's evolution and the frontiers of space this summer. Learn more at MOS.org. And Bryant University, where students can build connections on campus and across industries, gain hands-on experience, and graduate ready to lead day one. Learn more at bryant.edu.
BPR and GBH at 8 p.m. Marjorie Egan, Jim Browdy. We are streaming live at youtube.com/GBH News. Live music, spectacular live music with Rhett Price in a couple of minutes. Rick Steves, travel guru Rick Steves, will zoom in at a little after 12. And Sue O'Connell, who's been in the courtroom for the Lindsay Clancy trial every day, will also zoom in sometime in the 12 o'clock hour. Can I say where you just were? Is that okay?
Yes, yes.
Freshly back from Alaska. We're joined now at the BPL by Shirley Leung. Shirley's the business columnist of the Globe, one half of the fabulous Power Play newsletter duo with John Chesto, and host of the Say More podcast, available wherever you get podcasts. Welcome home, Shirley. Nice to see you.
I love Alaska. It was beautiful. It was beautiful weather. It didn't rain. I was afraid of mosquitoes, but I was not bitten by one.
Oh, good.
They kept on the tour guide kept on saying that those of us who were there at Denali Park, we got to see Mount Denali, and he said, "Welcome to the 30% club," because often it's too cloudy to see it, so you only see it 30% of the time.
Is Denali the place
one that Trump
changed to McKinley?
McKinley,
and then
yeah.
Biden changed it back.
And now it's technically McKinley again. But our tour guide still calls it Denali.
Good.
So,
good.
I
like that. So Shirley, Harvard has won against the Trump administration
again.
Yes. Tell us what happened.
So yesterday, a judge in Boston, federal judge, dismissed the Trump lawsuit that claimed that Harvard failed to protect Jewish students during, the war in Gaza, and so it was pretty straightforward, saying that did not prove that that there was kind of ongoing civil rights violations of Jewish students on campus.
And by the way, it makes Harvard, you reference 3-0. 3 lawsuits against Harvard for 3 different things by the feds. They've lost those 3. I'm going to raise the point I raised with everybody, including Judge Gertner when she's here, Andrew Cabral, former public safety secretary and former prosecutor. There is no penalty for the Trump administration to file frivolous lawsuits against anybody. Unlike this Olympian guy, the bikers, the normal cyclist, normal person who went to great expense. Harvard can afford this. Mm-hmm. It is unbelievable that these judges, when they dismiss these frivolous lawsuits, don't impose some sanctions on the prosecutors when the litigation was completely without merit. And so there's no disincentive, since Trump's lawyers are, quote,
that's a
free.
Great point.
I make it every single
Why
damn thing.
Why couldn't they make the Trump administration pay for Harvard's legal bills?
Well, they should, when Harvard should ask for it.
That happens in a lot of frivolous suits,
Well, we've
doesn't
also
it?
asked Andrea Campbell, who's the Attorney General, when they've won frivolous lawsuits brought by the government, why aren't they asking for the DOJ lawyers who made false representations of the court to be held in contempt for lying? I mean, it's just, they get away with everything.
Yeah, they should do that. We should, the AG and everybody. I don't know if Harvard wants to poke the bear even more.
They're not even commenting on their victory, by the way.
Won't the Trump administration appeal this like they appeal everything else?
Probably. I mean, but it still costs a lot of money to Harvard.
And they're still going after them. As the story points out, they're investigating their financial aid practices for foreign students and suing over alleged racial bias and admission policies.
But they've lost every one of the lawsuits so far they filed against Harvard. Every one that they filed.
Well, it's kind of a trend. I think that the administration has lost also. I mean, look at what they're trying to do in the Department of Justice. They're losing everything there too, and an awful lot of things are losing there. I don't think they're going to prevail with the 86-47 lawsuit against Comey, the former head of the FBI, or look at the thing with the algae in the pool. They lost that one too. They lost Letitia James, the Attorney General of the Adam Schiff. They were going after Adam Schiff. They've lost a lot of these things.
Well, but it's part of their strategy, right?
Exactly.
It's a strategy of distraction too.
And it's a chilling strategy because if you don't have the resources of Harvard, you might not exercise rights that you're otherwise entitled to exercise for fear that you're going to have to spend zillions of dollars in court. We're talking to Shirley Leung. This is a fitting day for the reporting on this family wealth thing. One of the people who was involved in the original version, who has been trumpeting this, Lee Pelton, his last day as head of the Boston Foundation is today. And we've been talking to Lee for years about the update. And everybody knows about this. When it originally came out of the Federal Reserve more than a decade ago, reported extensively in a series on racism in the Boston Globe, by the way, it was spectacular, I think in 2015. The average wealth of a white family was $250,000 in Boston, and the average wealth of a black family was $8. And those numbers have been updated and expanded. What did we learn?
Right. So last time the study was a much smaller group, and this time even more ambitious study. It was really a survey of 5,000 residents across Massachusetts, a deeper dive into family wealth. And, the numbers are, I think for me, the surprising numbers are about Latino families in Massachusetts. They have a median net wealth of just $1,200. Black families have more at $700-800, just a little bit more. But then compare that to white families, on the other hand, have a median net wealth of almost more than $500,000. And Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander families are at around $305,000. So still huge economic disparities, racial wealth gap exists in Massachusetts. I think the other startling thing is the difference between rural and urban. Rural families have a lot more money. I guess the thinking is that white wealthy families like to move out into the suburbs and have a lot of land, and then the poor families are stuck in the cities. The other thing is the amount of emergency money on hand, right? A lot of families only have $400.
This is heartbreaking. A third of the people in Massachusetts could not come up with $400 in an emergency. I mean, how horrible is that? By the way, you forget the emergency. How about living with the thought that if there is an emergency that involves your kid, for example, you couldn't come up with $400 to do whatever it is you attempt to do. It's just
I think a lot of this too has to do with the ability of white families to buy houses many years ago.
Yes, home
and
ownership.
The racism and these bogus mortgages that people got, and redlining and all that sort of stuff. So the residue is still with us of all that, right? And it's still continuing.
Right.
Actually.
I mean, the ability to own a home. Especially Massachusetts, where real estate has gone up quite a bit, that drives your net worth up, and a lot of families can't afford to buy a home.
Yeah, well, a lot of this stuff is absolutely unknown. I remember I was stunned when I first knew that the GI Bill was supposed to apply to everybody after World War II. Well, it really didn't apply to anybody but white people. In practice, you couldn't get the same deals and so you went off to World War, and that created a lot of wealth for the baby boomers, right? Because that was the parents of the baby boomers.
Mm-hmm.
No, and by the way, is this Federal Reserve produced?
Yes, the Federal, same thing. Last time, 2015, it was Federal Reserve Bank of Boston. This year, it's also, they've been working on it for several years now, this study, this follow-up study. And, Boston Foundation provided some money to do the study. I think Eastern Bank Foundation as well. Several others kicked in money to do this study again. And I'm hoping that it will just... it really, I mean, on one hand, the results weren't surprising. Kind of that racial wealth gap still exists in Massachusetts, but it's nice to have new data. And one of the other things that that I thought was really interesting. This also looked at estates and number of people who have a will or an estate or think they might have an inheritance. And I think looking at that, of course, you see that Black and Latino families, they don't expect, far fewer of them expect to get an inheritance compared to white families and Asian families. And often when we look at wealth, generational wealth, it's the ability to generations that follow have higher net worths because they're able to pass on assets to the next generation, which allows them maybe a down payment for a home, or they're passing down a home.
The home itself, yeah.
Which one would argue makes a case against what this legislature toys with all the time, which is eliminating the estate tax. Because one of the things the estate tax does, I know people subject to it are not happy about it, obviously, but it's a leveler to a degree, needless to say. I think this survey, this study you're talking about, says only 1 out of 6 people leave an inheritance to whomever, their kids or whatever. And by taxing it, you're sort of, quote, spreading the wealth. So let's see if the legislators get the message. Marjorie mentioned one of the key things in this report, which we'll look more closely at in the days ahead, is home ownership, as you both discussed. San Francisco, which is sort of like Boston, except maybe even more expensive, as we know, is about to get rid of, or maybe even has, I'm not sure what the status is, their inclusionary zoning rules, which we have here. Explain what inclusionary zoning is for people who don't understand to begin with, Shirley, if you would.
Yeah.
And then explain why they're doing what they're doing.
So inclusionary zoning means that if you're going to build a new building, you have to set aside a mandatory amount for affordable housing. And
it's 20%.
It's 20% in Boston. I think in San Francisco, it's maybe not as high. Maybe it's 15%.
Yeah, it was 15, and they want to lower it to 5%.
And this was part of a grand bargain in San Francisco. I'm not sure if they have to vote on it, but I think the leadership supports this. But basically, in exchange for lowering the so-called IDP from 15 to 5%, the city would also raise money, raise funds, or raise some kind of funding to build more housing, and presumably that would be including more affordable housing. So it's kind of there's a 1-2 punch to this deal. It's not just lowering the IDP.
Right. So that to get the buy-in of the affordable housing people, not all of whom are bought in there, the notion was they'll spend money on affordable housing, which obviously I assume most people would support if inclusionary zoning by definition is probably going to cause less new construction than without inclusionary zoning, because obviously there's less profit for the developer. And so almost everybody involved, I assume, if the state or the city could do it. But was that piece in the Globe, by the way?
It was in the Globe, and it talked about how Chelsea and Waltham have already gotten rid of these requirements. And Cambridge is thinking about it.
Right, but it also the key question it poses, if I remember correctly, are we going to follow San Francisco's lead? And so far, Wu is saying no, and we should focus on the reason she's saying no, because she brings this up every month when she's with us. Unlike in San Francisco, where they're allowed to have a transfer tax on expensive property, which they're going to use to fund affordable housing construction. Mayor Wu has been attempting for years, as she honestly and directly, when she's standing where you are, Shirley, says, ask the legislature to give her the power within Boston. She's not asking to tax them in Fitchburg, but the reps and senators from other communities have decided they know better what's good for Boston than Boston's mayor does, and she can't get it, so the money isn't there to replace the inclusionary zoning with an investment.
So they're set up differently from us, and also they're not reducing their IDP in a vacuum. They're doing it.
One thing goes down, one thing goes up.
Exactly, and so maybe there's something to do here on that front, and maybe this is. But maybe we can there's a little more political will for the transfer fee, right?
Some,
right? Isn't the governor? There's the governor. I can't remember where her position is.
Jamie, do you mind checking? Is Governor Healy in support of the real estate transfer tax? I can't remember that. But you know what? It's interesting, by the way. Mayor Wu, who I have to credit for, unlike a lot of people who deal with the legislature who are ready to strangle them, don't have the courage to confront them. She's pretty forthright about her anger about their not allowing Boston to run Boston. But last month I asked her why doesn't she lead a campaign to change, I think it's Article 84 of the or 89 or something, which is the home rule thing, which basically says you can't raise taxes, you can't do liquor licenses where you're the expert, as we know from your brilliant work on that. Why don't you lead an effort to get rid of that so cities and towns can make their own decisions? And to say that she was lukewarm at best was an understatement. Maybe it's something you can pursue.
But she's been outspoken. I mean, she's, as a elected leader, she's been outspoken that we need to redo these.
Well, but they have to do something. The way you get rid of home rule is you change the state's constitution.
Right.
Someone's got to do that.
Right.
Someone's got to lead the charge.
Well, she is putting pressure in other ways by putting up candidates against incumbents.
Here we go. Thank you, Jamie. The so-called real estate transfer tax is one of the key planks of Governor Healey's multi-billion-dollar plan to spur housing around the state. Here's the key line. It was killed in 2024 by the Speaker of the House, Ron Mariano.
That's what I thought.
Quickly, because we're running out of time here, but I was kind of surprised that Mass General Brigham was talking about partnering with Palantir, the controversial data firm. They're Palantir. They're the ones that have helped find undocumented immigrants who are legal or illegal and deport them faster. They're very controversial and criticized for that. What did you think of this?
I was on vacation in Alaska.
Oh, you were on vacation in Alaska. Okay. All right. Well, a lot of people at Mass General, there's people that complain, a physician complained, was very worried about patient data there, what would happen, were they going to share patient data with ICE?
Wow.
I think there's a lot of questions
I need to catch up on that.
But they say the same piece said there's no MGH said there's no contract yet.
Yes, there's no contract yet.
Before you go quickly, Brian McGrory, tell him we haven't seen him in a long time. He should respond. You're the editor of the Globe. You promoted a lot of people, changed a lot of positions. You have a new business editor who we know pretty well, who's been on our show.
Oh, yes, Beth Healy. Yes, we're very excited. Beth Healy, who is a longtime business reporter and Globe Spotlight reporter at the Globe. She left us for WBUR.
Been at BUR for a while,
and she's the managing editor of local news at BUR. And she is coming back to the Globe next month to run the business section and to be my boss as well. So we're all very excited for her to come back. The current business editor, Greg Wong, has a new role, on the masthead. And then another business editor, deputy business editor, Tim Logan. He's the new Metro editor of the Globe. And so,
didn't he take the famous photograph in the seaport of wherever it was? What was going to be the location of a new big company was totally underwater.
He might have done that. He certainly wrote about it, I believe. And
so, in any case, tell Beth Healy in the next manager meeting and tell Brian what our phone number is.
Okay, all right, we'll do that. I will do that.
We're out of time, Shirley. Thank you very, very much.
Shirley
Leung is business columnist for the Boston Globe, one half of the Power Play newsletter, duo with John Chesto, host of the fantastic Say More podcast. We've missed you in the podcast, Shirley. Thank you very much for coming in. Coming up after this quick break, we are joined by hip-hop violinist Rhett Price. Wait till you hear this music ahead of his new album release, Renaissance Man. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browdy. This is BPR, GBH, and NEPM live from the Boston Public Library.
I'm Jared Bowen. Today on The Culture Show, before Anthony Bourdain became the swaggering chef, writer, and world traveler, he was a cocky college kid getting his first taste of restaurant life in Provincetown. The new film Tony goes back to the beginning. And with a new podcast, Barack Obama explores the books that shaped who he is and what he believes. We take on that and more in our Week in Review today at 2 on 89.7 GBH.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And Concord Park, a Volunteers of America senior community in Concord, Mass., offering seniors the privacy and independence of their own apartment home as well as care and support to help meet their needs now and as they age. ConcordPark.org. And Harvard Business School Baker Library, featuring an exhibit on Muriel Siebert, the first woman to buy a seat on the New York Stock Exchange, open to the public. Details at library.hbs.edu.
Welcome back to BPR and GBH and NEPM. Marjorie Egan and Jim Browdy live at the Boston Public Library, streaming youtube.com/GBH News. It's time for Live Music Friday as we welcome back to the show brilliant violinist, Rhett Price. You probably know Rhett, and we first met him, I think 13 years ago, actually, when he was here, from his hugely successful viral YouTube videos, playing his violin in tea stations across Boston. Here's a little taste. Thank you, Taylor Swift. Since then, he's toured the country, collaborated with hip-hop artists across the industry, eventually landing in Italy while working with the great Leon Thomas, and that's the inspiration for his just-released new album. It's called Renaissance Man, which also features photos of paintings that he, as in Rhett, has done. More info at Ready Pants, yes, that's true, RHETTY pants.com. We'll talk to him in a minute. But first, here he is, the Renaissance man himself, Rhett Price, performing Three Rings. Welcome back.
We're checking something.
Oh, we're waiting on a little sound.
We're waiting on a
Sorry.
sound.
I can do a little humming in the background if that'll help. Okay. Rhett is being very... How are you, Rhett? Nice to see you. Great.
I don't know any jokes.
You don't know any jokes? Well, obviously we don't either. But this is going to...
Oh, here we go. Here we go. Here we go.
Rhett Price. That was spectacular.
Yep. So I was performing Three Rings from his new album, his latest album, Renaissance Man. Great to see you again. Thank you for coming in.
Put that thing on your head there, Rhett.
Yeah.
Okay.
So tell us about what you just played.
Oh, it's a song called Three Rings. Man, what else to say about it? I mean, I produced all the tracks on the album. I'd never produced any music before, as far as like producing beats or whatever. I always worked with producers before, so it was quite the undertaking.
You taught yourself?
I did.
read all the music production. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I did. It started off pretty. There were some beats that definitely didn't make the cut from the beginning. It started off pretty shaky, but I got it together.
And by the way, we should say, for those who are looking at him saying, why is this guy wearing sunglasses? He's got an eye deal he's trying to deal with. So
I got an eye thing going on.
That's right, an eye thing going on.
You know, I don't want to sound. She's the musician. I am not.
Well,
I'm just
sort
the
of,
consumer
sort
of
of.
music. Every time we see, it's your fourth time here.
Yeah.
I've never heard a violin played like you play it. This is from Little Kid in Texas with a fiddle. Is that where this all grew from, or what?
Little Kid in Texas. The middle of nowhere in Texas, for sure. It's a place outside of a place called Midland, Texas. But yeah, I grew up playing like fiddle music, you know, hoedown stuff, like playing fiddle by ear. And then I came up here to go to Berkeley and fell in love with Boston and stayed here, you know.
And the thing that most people first heard from you was the Taylor Swift cover. And then you did in our studio in Brighton, you and your former colleague did Eleanor Rigby, like unbelievable.
Thank you.
But you're writing all your own stuff now, right?
Yeah. I had a lot of luck with covers, like tens of millions of views. Like we did really good, did a lot of cool things. But it was at that, like I had that session in Italy with Ye, Ty Dolla $ign, and Leon Thomas, and watching them work. I don't know, man. I was like the being able to explore things in the studio when you're creating. That stops to a certain degree with covers because the song's been created already. Mm-hmm. So like you already have the parameters written. You can't throw anything you want at the wall. So that's really, after that, I was like, you know what? Anyone can play someone else's song if they're good at an instrument, you know?
Yeah. You not only taught yourself how to create these whole things yourself and write the music, you're a Renaissance man as well because you taught yourself oil painting.
Yeah.
And tell us how you coordinated the paintings with the album.
Yeah, so after that trip that inspired the album, when I was out in Florence, just looking at all the art, the Caravaggios and like all the Michelangelos and the sculptures and everything, I don't know, that just inspired me to kind of, that's where the whole idea came from. Originally was like to play off of the Florence, the Italian Renaissance. But then also being like a Renaissance man, I did all these oil paintings, I did all the production, I wrote and recorded all the songs.
The oil paintings are great. They're great.
Oh, thank you.
We're showing some, by the way, if you're at the library or you're watching on YouTube.
Isn't that neat?
They really are incredible.
Which song does that go with?
Leave the Bottle. Yeah.
Oh, Leave the Bottle. Okay.
But keep talking. Go ahead.
Yeah, that was the first one I did actually. That was after I did that one. I was like, you know what? Maybe I'm not crazy. I could actually do this thing. So I did a whole bunch of paintings, and there's a self-portrait for the title track. It's called Renaissance Man, and it didn't like come easy on that one. One of the eyes, I couldn't just get the eye right. I painted it 38 times, wiped it off, painted it again, wiped it off, painted. Oh, it was awful. But it looks good now. It looks good now.
Well, you know the old saying, 38th time is the charm. Can I get back to something you said a minute ago? You played with the artist formerly known as Kanye West. Is he as big an a-hole working with him? I'm serious. As he is in the world, or is he a different kind of person?
Well, my communication with him was pretty limited.
Okay.
Yeah. It was all... So I got there, and it was mainly... I mean... Even Leon was out on the balcony working on stuff on his laptop the whole time. It was pretty much just me and Ty Dolla $ign, and the engineer working on
Thomas
everything.
is brilliant too. Right?
Oh, incredible! Yeah, I played on his last album.
Oh, you did?
The opening track, "Slow Down." Yeah, I played the strings on that.
So when you were just getting started years ago, and we taught you, I think for the first time, quite a long time
2013.
ago. 2013. And you were still like busking over in Boston Common and stuff like that. What was that like? Was it? I always wonder. I mean, if you're playing really great music and people just walk by you and they don't, or they stand there and watch it for a while and they just kind of don't even throw $1 in the. How hard is that?
It's pretty heartbreaking. I mean, like I've played since I was 4 years old. So, I don't know when you've played for 20-something, 30-something years, however long at that point. And then people just like walk by and I'm like, you don't even understand what it's taken to be able to do what I,
Yeah.
But it also gave me an opportunity to learn how to get their attention. So when I play shows now, there are things I learned from, how to get people engaged that don't want to be engaged. Maybe they come to a show because their girlfriend or their brother or whoever wants to come to the show. They don't want to go alone, so they drag someone along. I have to figure out how to get that person engaged in the show to where they're having
So
a good time and enjoying it.
how do you do that?
I mean, I have to judge the crowd, but I learned how to work a crowd, I guess.
Oh,
So just it depends on each individual person, the situation.
Can you, if you have time tonight, if you could talk to us, because in the middle of a segment, when people start walking out here, we don't really know how to deal with it, and so maybe you can give us a little kind of guide. Can we I don't even have a question for this. Every time I hear you, and I do listen to you when you're not here, by the way, I've really never heard a violin like this, and so there's no question at the end of that, but it is.
Oh, well, thank you.
I mean, it is. It's
assuming that's a compliment.
It is a huge. It is a huge. I don't mean it doesn't sound like a violin. It does sound like a violin, but we have a lot of violinists here, and it's not played like that.
Well, you know what? Most of them probably all grew up playing classical music.
Maybe so.
And playing in school and all that. And the school I went to growing up in the middle of West Texas, they didn't even have an orchestra. So they're like, hey, we've got a saxophone. You want to? So I played saxophone. I went to college at first for saxophone performance.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And so I did saxophone for a long time. Also doing like fiddle, at home. But so I think I just picked up stylistically certain things that you might hear, like, I don't know, like Miri Ben Ari, the OG hip hop violinist that did all the original Ye records. She said the same thing. She was like, I've never heard anyone play like you. And I explained that. She's like, it kind of sounds like a saxophone. I'm like, hey.
Well, let me just tell you that noted music critic, Darius, standing right there, our buddy, said it's the best when you were rehearsing in the morning. He said the best of anybody here. Anonymous texter, Marjorie is making me nervous. She's getting mesmerized like she did with that Scottish comedian last week. Put her fan on. So you're going to play again in a second.
Yes, you are going to play again in a second. You're going to play Leave the Bottle, which is the song that went with that painting.
Yeah.
So what was that painting? It looked like glass to me. Was it a bottle or glass?
It was a wine glass, but if you look at it, it was kind of fashioned over the creation from the creation of Adam by Michelangelo from the Sistine Chapel.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
the
I kind
fingers
of
together.
Yeah. So that was to tie in the Renaissance idea. I fashioned that after that painting, and then added in a wonky wine glass, and
so
did my own thing with it.
ReadyPants.com for the album. Where can people find you these days, other than buying the album, which they of course should do? Where are they finding you?
I mean, right now I don't have any public things announced. So yeah, they'll have to stay tuned to. I mean, socials are the best place probably.
Okay.
At Ready Pants,
Ready
which
Pants.
I chose just to not take myself too seriously,
Yeah.
So at Ready Pants on
Despite
everything.
the sunglasses. You're not taking yourself. Okay, why don't you put your headset down gently, and Rhett Price is going to play. Oh, thank you so much.
I got a little something for you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you very much.
Or not, or something, or
okay.
Well, whatever. It is,
okay, we're going to hear Rhett
Renaissance.
Price. The album is Renaissance Man, and as you said before, he's got oil paintings to go with every song. You can get more information at readypants.com. I'm going to spell it RHETTY pants, readypants.com. And here is Leave the Bottle.
That was fabulous, Rhett. That was just great.
We've been listening to hip-hop violinist Rhett Price. His latest album is Renaissance Man. For more information, go to readypants.com. Thank you very much, Rhett, for coming in. Up next, we're gonna talk to Rick Steves. He's here listening to GBH on any PM. Rick Steves is next.
This is listener-supported GBH. When you donate to our station, you join others who recognize that independent, trustworthy, and local journalism is vital in our community. Give today when you go to gbhnews.org.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And the Cape Playhouse in Dennis Village, now playing Tina Fey's Broadway comedy hit, Mean Girls, rooting for the new girl in high school in this warm and snarky musical. Tickets for Mean Girls at capeplayhouse.com. And South Coast Artists, presenting its 23rd annual Open Studio Tour, August 15th and 16th in Tiverton and Little Compton, Rhode Island, and Dartmouth and Westport, Massachusetts. Tour brochure downloads available at southcoastartists.org.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
Welcome to hour number 2 of Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH. He is Jim Browdy. I am Marjorie Egan. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. We have a little breaking news here before we get to Rick Steves. The New York Times is reporting that Luigi Mangione has pled guilty in federal court to shooting healthcare executive Brian Thompson. You may remember that. Shot him in the back on a New York sidewalk in 2024. I shot Mr. Thompson, he told the judge.
And of course, because there are no cameras in the federal courtroom, which is an absurdity, we didn't get to see it or hear it. In any case, we're now joined by one of our favorites on Zoom, Rick Steves. Rick is an author, television, radio host, owner of Rick Steves Europe Tour Group. You can watch Rick Steves Europe weeknights at 7:30 on GBH2, and his radio show Travel with Rick Steves Sundays at 4 on 89.7 GBH. Rick, it's great to talk to you.
Jim and Marjorie, good to be with you again.
Yeah, great to talk to you.
Before we get started with the agenda we intended to talk to you about, we started the show today, Rick, talking to our listeners about an age-old problem in Massachusetts. Only 12% of our 4,000 mile or whatever it is coastline is available, open to the public. What's the situation in Europe with public access to beaches?
You know, it's interesting because I was just in Greece and they've monetized almost every inch of a lot of beaches that used to be pristine and wide open. And, people move in and try to make money off of people going to the beach. Of course, in the United States, there's a lot of lakes that are entirely private owned. I think in general in Europe, there's a notion that beaches should have public access. In England, they've got annual they call it a mass trespass. And they just say everybody can walk everywhere. If you put a fence for your animals, you got to provide a way for people to get across that fence. And the same approaches to beaches, getting back to that England example. Each year, one time they get out and they trespass everywhere just to reassert their public access to the trails. And I find a lot of Europeans are just astounded that our waterways would not have public access like is the standard in Europe.
Maybe we could lead that charge, Marjorie. We're talking to Rick Steves.
So Jim is a big traveler. He's always zipping in and out of Europe, hanging out in the Champs-Élysées and all that stuff. But he talked about before the show as well how you've done this great guide to all these restaurants. Talking in Florence, where to go that's great near the Ponte Vecchio, where to go near the Duomo. But he's afraid when he shows up at one of these places that you've recommended with his tour book that it's going to turn into a tourist trap. And I know you hate tourist traps, Rick Steves, so tell us about that.
Well, I was just dealing with that, Marjorie, because the reality is if you go to Santorini, where I was just a couple weeks ago, or if you go to downtown Florence, or if you go to, the Latin Quarter in Paris, the restaurants there survive because of tourism. So just because it's touristy these days does not mean it's a bad listing. But Americans should remember a big part of that is time. If you go to a great restaurant at 7 o'clock, it can be filled with tourists and be quite touristy. If you come back at 9 o'clock, the tourists are gone, and it's suddenly all the local people come out and eat. So sometimes you want to go when it's less intense and more easy, and that would be the touristy time. Other times you want to dive into that mosh pit of the European clientele later in the evening because they like to eat later. So you can time your visit to shape how touristy it is. And also, I've noticed that I just spent 50 days researching restaurants. The reality is most tourists don't want to get in a taxi and go out to the edge of town for a restaurant. They want to walk there from the famous sites or from their hotel. And that's going to be touristy if it's in the old historic quarters these days. But my favorite restaurants are very often the ones that are a 10-minute walk away from the center, or a bus ride, or a taxi ride. And for me, that the stakes are kind of high there, because if I'm asking somebody to cross the street for lunch, well, that's not that big an investment. But if I ask them to get in a taxi and spend $25 to get out there for dinner, it better be a good place.
You know, Rick, we often have restaurant critics on the show, and we almost outed the Washington Post restaurant critic a few years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Unknowingly, after 30 years of having his face shielded. So when they go into a restaurant, in almost all cases, the restaurateur does not know who they are. Almost everybody knows who you are. So how do you know you're not getting a special deal?
Well, I probably am getting a special deal, but I go into a restaurant, I visit 10 or 12, probably 10 restaurants a night. I can't eat at all of them. I experience them. I go in, and before I'm noticed, I will smell, I will listen, I will check the vibe, I'll consider the clientele, I'll look at the presentation of the food, the density of the seating, the kind of music. And more often than not, I can see people with my guidebooks. You know, if I'm going to Munich, or if I'm going to Toledo, or if I'm going to Lisbon, and I go to one of the restaurants I recommend, invariably somebody with my book will be eating there, and they'll see me, and I'll taste their. They give me a little taste, just as I have a little joke of nibbling off their food when they thank me for the listing. But if I can talk to them. And if I say, well, how's it going here? And they'll say, oh, this is our third night here. We just love this place. Well, who am I to say that's not a great listing if these people on their vacation liked it so much the first time, they went back the next 2 nights. So I'm not a sophisticated, how fresh is the olive oil kind of food critic. I list a place for tourists in Rome. And, you want to go out to a restaurant in Trastevere, or you want to go to a good pizzeria, or you want to have your gelato. And I like to mix the welcome they get, the authenticity of the place, the value of the place, how touristy is it. I really like to be surrounded by a smart local clientele rather than a noisy touristy mass tourism clientele. I've got very basic ethics. You don't want to go to a high rent place. With a big neon sign that says "We speak English" and accept credit cards. You want to go to a place with low rent, a few blocks away. You want to go to a no-name mom and pop family-run place, and the basic thing is a small handwritten menu in one language. If it's a small menu, they're offering a good value and making money. If it is handwritten, it's shaped by what's fresh in the market this morning. And if it's in one language, it's the local language. That means they're catering to tourists. They're dedicated to tourists. And not tourists, they're dedicated to the locals. And tourists are welcome. I like a restaurant with some attitude. I like an Italian restaurant that says no pizza if they don't really want to be a pizzeria. My favorite Italian restaurants have a little joke. They say no pizza. And it's just designed to remind tourists that this is a place that honors the local specialties rather than tries to hook the tourists.
Before we continue, is that scene over your right shoulder your backyard?
That's my backyard, yeah.
Jesus, that is gorgeous.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Really gorgeous.
Well, it's more beautiful than that because it's so smoky right now. You can't see the Olympic Mountains and the Puget Sound. So we're dealing with a little smoke here. But yeah, I'm really blessed to live here in the Northwest, and we have a beautiful environment.
Yeah, the wildfires out in Washington State have been terrible, hitting a lot of the national parks there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, it's a thing in Europe too. There's fires all over Europe, and one of my most common phrases these days as I'm traveling and we talk about the impact of climate change is, I say, drill, baby, drill, because that's the ethic of the United States. Let's get the money now and forget about the impact on the future and people south of the border and so on. But that's a whole other interview.
So before we find out about your own personal odyssey through the Greek islands, you mentioned about going to places, as you just said, that have the handwritten menu and a small menu and all that, where the menu is written in the language, Italian in this case. Some people, like myself, I would say, you get intimidated if I don't speak Italian, you get intimidated. You're afraid to go to a place like that because you don't speak Italian. What do you find generally?
Interesting. That's a very good concern, Marjorie, but I don't speak these languages. I mean, I'm pretty good in Italian because I've been eating there for 30 years, but I can go to Estonia, I can go to Portugal and so on. And I've never used an app or a food dictionary or anything like that. Generally, you'll have an English translation. Generally, you have a waiter who can talk to you. And always, you can have a spirit of adventure. So you just got to kind of I like to look around and see what other people are eating. And a lot of times I'll order by pointing. I'll have what she's having, that line. But what you got to know is the general, how does the system work? There's a lot of skills for eating, and my challenge is to list a variety of restaurants and describe them in a way that people can sit on their bed in their hotel room, browse through the listings, and decide which place they want to go to. So the challenge is to provide the listings depending on, do they want a romantic place, do they want a noisy place, do they want a place with a view, do they want a traditional place, do they want modern, do they want vegetarian? And list one of each of those or a couple of each of those. Choose neighborhoods that are great. I really think the atmosphere is it's really, really important. And then you get to the restaurant and you got to know what's their format. I was just at a restaurant in Germany, in Trier, and that's all about wine in the Mosel region. And up on the chalkboard, they had wines listed number 1 through number 8. And it was in a range from dry to sweet. And everybody has their range where they like a very dry wine, half dry, or süß, which is sweet. I don't know a lot of German words, but I know trocken is dry, süß is sweet, and Habsüß or Habtrocken is half dry or half sweet. So these are key words depending on what you want to communicate. So it's just fun to take chances. It's fun to understand the process and to have the rudiments. I mean, when you go to Switzerland, you see 0.1 L. 0.1 L. Well, that means a deciliter. That means 1/10 of a liter. In Germany, you get a wine and it's a Viertel. That means it's a quarter of a liter, 0.25. In Austria, it's an Achtel. That's an eighth of a liter, 0.125. And the greedy Swiss only give you a deciliter, 1/10 of a liter. So I'm on a personal crusade to get the Swiss to loosen up and pour wine like the Austrians, at least, an Achtel.
We're talking to Rick Steves.
So tell us about, you just were on a tour through the Greek islands.
I spent 50 days, Marjorie, updating my guidebooks this year. It was just wonderful. And I did the Greek Isles, I did Northern Italy, I did Southwest Germany, and the great Swiss cities. Because I have 50 guidebooks covering all of Europe. I've got 10 or 15 researchers out there working, and I'm one of them. And my name happens to be on the cover of these books. And our new book is going to be on the Greek Isles. So it was really exciting for me to spend nearly 3 weeks on the Greek Isles. And every day on my itinerary, it says G10 and G6. And that means a guide at 10 o'clock for the daytime stuff and a guide at 6 o'clock for the restaurants and the evening stuff. And for me, that gives me a friend and an expert and a translator. And I can go through there and just produce so much when it comes to research with a good local guide. And hopefully I get to know them, and if I like them, I'll recommend them in my book. But to me, a guide is a wonderful splurge. On my TV shows, people always see me introducing my European friend. I say, here's my friend and fellow tour guide, Alfio, or my friend and fellow tour guide, Christina. And I like to joke, I'm just paying them to be my friend, you know. Anybody can have these people to be their friend for 3 or 4 hours, and I get that to help in my research. So I was looking in Greece, My goal was not just to cover the famous islands. Everybody wants to go to Mykonos and Rhodes and Santorini. I did. They're great. You got to deal with the tourist crowds, but that's okay. But what I did was I found a wonderful backdoor island within an hour, usually half an hour or 45 minutes by ferry, from each of those famous islands. So from Rhodes, you can go to Symi. From Santorini, you can go to Foligandros. And from Mykonos, you can go to Tinos. And each of those untouristy islands had no airport and no cruise port.
Wow.
No plane and no cruise ships and no promotional budgets. In fact, most of those islands have laws that prohibit people from making big hotel buildings, constructions. You can't have more than 25 units in an accommodations, for example, I believe on Symi. So there's reasons that islands are touristy, and there's reasons that islands are untouristy. And if you go to a touristy island and complain about the crowds, I think it's your own problem.
Well, that means because of those restrictions, Ivanka and Jared won't be building there anytime soon, Rick. You know, Rick, you just spent 50 days there. What do the people in Europe think about the people from a country whose leader treats all of them like they're the enemy of the United States? How are Americans treated in 2026 in the age of Trump?
You know, I've been going to Europe, Jim, for 50 years, and you know, there's a pendulum. It kind of goes back and forth and different depending on the news. I remember for a decade I would go to Turkey, and one year all the people I met would say, I would say I'm an American, and they go, oh, I love America. And the next year I'd say I'm an American, and they would say, what was the word? They'd say fascist imperialist. Fascist imperialist. That was their media had told them that we were fascist imperialists, and the next year we're friends with them. Well, it's flipped back and forth, and it's kind of superficial. But right now there's something fundamentally different that I've never encountered, and it's just the United States is the bully. The United States is insisting on this. When you turn back the covers on the art of the deal, it's just win-lose and have more lawyers and just bully your way into dominance. And that's showing up with our relationships with the rest of the world. So, having said that, what is the Americans' reception in Europe? Yeah. I've got 30,000 Americans traveling around Europe on my Rick Steves tour buses this year, 1,200 different tours and 40 itineraries all over Europe. I'm very keenly interested in how our travelers are being received over there. And nobody, and I would hear about it if this was not true, but nobody is reporting they're treated rudely as Americans traveling around Europe. People are frustrated, bewildered, disappointed, confused at our government. They're confused that we elected this person 2 times after learning what he was all about the first time. We had 4 years to think about it, and we said we want more. So the fact is, we've got a country that is not reliable as far as being a friend of our European allies. And Europeans are very disappointed in that. But they know that every country is, 50-50 or 40-60 or whatever. And Europeans know that the people they see traveling are generally, I mean, if you had to vote, having traveled, or if you had to have a passport before you could vote, our political landscape would be totally different. So I think Europeans realize the people they meet are not with the same mindset about this bully approach to the world that our government is right now. Long story short, you're received warmly in Europe. I was just there for 50 days. I've got 100 guides working all over Europe right now. I've got my staff in Europe researching guidebooks. It's not an issue that people don't like Americans now. The issue is, are we going to be able to travel in the future with wars and climate change and tariffs and our dollar dropping or whatever, Those are the issues, and those are the consequences of our approach to the world from our government right now.
Rick, it is wonderful to see you and talk to you as always. Thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you, Rick.
All right. Thank you very much. Happy travels.
Happy travels to you.
We have been speaking with Rick Steves, author, TV, radio host, owner of the Rick Steves Europe Tour Group. You can catch Rick Steves Europe weeknights, 7:30, GBH Channel 2, and his radio show, Travel with Rick Steves, Sundays at 4 o'clock on 89.7 GBH. We always love to talk to Rick Steves. Coming up after this quick break, our media maven, Sue O'Connell. She has been covering the trial of Lindsay Clancy, who, of course, killed her 3 children. She's going to give us an update on what happened in the courtroom this week that you may not have seen because you weren't there. Sue O'Connell next. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browdy, listening to BPR 89.7 GBH live from the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. Today on the Curiosity Desk, we're live from the Boston Public Library. We're welcoming back Mentalist Tom Indigo, who last time was able to correctly guess my pin and then the name of a listener's 2 cats. Well, this time around, he's got tricks you can learn at home, on the road, or live at the library. You will tune in.
Edgar, that's a hypnotist.
Yeah, I know. It's also the Curiosity Desk. Today at 1 on GBH 89.7.
Support for our programs comes from you.
And the Cambridge Homes, a nonprofit independent and assisted living residence with a tradition of service, working with Cambridge area seniors for more than 130 years. Learn more at thecambridgehomes.org/tradition. And GM Roth Design Remodeling, providing custom kitchens, bathrooms, and accessory dwelling units. Their design team works to create living-in-place solutions tailored to the needs of each home and family. More information at gmroth.com.
Welcome back to BPR and 89.7 GBH. Marjorie Egan and Jim Browdy, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Joined now by Sue O'Connell, courtroom insider for Commonwealth Confidential, the Lindsay Clancy trial on NBC 10, and Hallie Jackson now on NBCnews.com. Good day, Sue O'Connell. Nice to see you.
Good day to you. Good day to you. Good to see you.
Yeah, Sue O'Connell, this has been one really heartbreaking trial. I mean, the jurors are crying, the defendant is crying, everybody's crying. I mean, 3 little kids like this. But give us, you talk about what we may not have seen because we're not in the courtroom like you. So tell us what went on this week and what we may have missed.
Well, I think the big deal is that it seems that the prosecution has rested, although they didn't officially rest on yesterday. So we're expecting that Kevin Reddington will present his case starting on Monday. I was not in the courtroom for the autopsy photos that were shown on Wednesday and the testimony from the 2 medical examiners. And I'm really glad I wasn't, I have to say, because I heard from my colleagues that it was absolutely horrific and wrenching and jurors were crying. And it offers the question as to exactly what this prosecution thinks they're doing. To date, they really haven't made the case that Lindsay Clancy was anything other than, before the killings, a wonderful mother who was desperately seeking mental health treatment and very worried about the medication she was on. And by showing these autopsy photos, remember, she has conceded that she killed the children. There's no argument here. A lot of experts who are smarter than I think that the prosecution really went too far, and that some of the jurors may feel that they were, abused in some way by the prosecution by having to look at these photos. The judge actually, Lindsay Clancy was sobbing so loudly during the first ME that they abruptly ended and took her out. The second ME, that ended on an objection Kevin Reddington made that the prosecutor was impeaching her own witness, which is a crazy idea to think when you have an expert medical examiner up there. And that's how that testimony ended. So I don't know what our tax dollars are doing here, but we're definitely, I think the prosecutors overstepped with the autopsy photos and testimony this week.
We should say, because just in case people don't know about this case, the children were 5 years old, 3 years old, and 8 months old.
Yeah.
And she sent her husband out to get stop at CVS and get takeout food. And while he was gone, she strangled the 3 children with exercise bands, and then cut herself, and apparently trying to commit suicide, and then ended up jumping out the window, and now she's paralyzed and in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
So, Sue, we have mentioned, I think we said this to you last week, we've discussed it with Andrea Cabrera a couple of times. This is the same judge who handled the LaTarsha Sanders situation out of Brockton, where the state's highest court reversed her conviction the other day. And Yvonne
She killed 2 of her children.
I'm sorry, I should have said that, yeah. And Yvonne Abraham in the Globe has written, both of us think, terrific pieces, particularly around Sanders, but now obviously updating it because of the commonality, not only of the crimes, but because of the same judge and the same prosecutor, Cruz. I don't know if you're privy to sort of talk in the halls kind of thing, but you seem to be the talk in the halls kind of gal. And out on the street, is there discussion around the issue that Yvonne raised, that I'm sure people raised even without her, about why the DA decided to charge her with first-degree murder rather than...
Yeah, I mean, he definitely overcharged her. I mean, there is no doubt about this. We could actually make a case that they could have charged her with manslaughter. They probably would have gotten a plea deal.
Yeah.
He is known as being a very vigorous DA, so there's that challenge right there. As far as the judge goes, he seems to be letting just about everything in during this case.
Well, explain why that's relevant. Explain why that's relevant vis-a-vis Sanders.
The Sanders conviction was overturned by the Supreme Judicial Court based on the fact that the Judge Sullivan did not allow her psychiatric history in.
It's incredible.
There's some differences in the cases. She was not seeking psychiatric help before she killed her children. But nonetheless, there's a TikToker out there who used to work at McLean Hospital. She's not just a TikToker. She's also, I believe, a psychiatric nurse who was disputing some of the claims the prosecution was making about McLean. And Reddington, the defense attorney, Kevin Reddington, said, well, let's bring her in and let's talk about the staffing at McLean when Lindsay Clancy was there. And this nurse wasn't even there when Lindsay Clancy was there. And the judge is like, well, let's have a voir dire. Let's bring the TikToker in. Let's see what she has to say.
Really?
So I think that the judge is really allowing a lot more evidence in. But the case remains that DA Cruz overcharged this case. He overcharged the Sanders case. And again, I'll remind folks that the district attorney position is an elected position in our state. So you can have a say on how your law gets applied to women in peril.
You know, I've said this before, but I'll say it again. One of the things, and correct me if I'm wrong, I've learned from this case is that here was a woman that was hearing voices to tell her to kill her children, and yet on the very day she kills her children, she said the pediatrician was with one of them, and the pediatrician saw nothing amiss. And some of the people that knew she was struggling with depression and postpartum depression, but very many people did not realize the extent of this. So this is kind of a lesson. Apparently 1 or 2 of every 1,000 women that give birth wind up in this situation. This is a real lesson in how difficult this is to diagnose, it seems to me.
Yes, and also to, some of the text messages and notes that were read in court this week, she indicates that she was searching for hallucinations. She was searching for psychosis. She was searching for sociopaths. Like, she didn't share that she was having hallucinations or having visions of hurting her children with her health professionals. And of course, you make the argument lots of people don't, because if they're a pilot or a doctor or a police officer or a nurse, or they share it in their children, they go through a divorce, they might lose their children. So we don't have a safe space for people to share those feelings and concerns and get treatment and still not lose their jobs if they're able to get cured and go back to work. So that's the issue here, too, that the prosecution is making. She didn't share those extreme issues with her care team, and therefore they couldn't diagnose her with psychosis. But we also heard from a prosecution witness that there's a wider range of postpartum illness that just isn't getting diagnosed properly.
You know, by the way, we've got a couple of texts. Let me read one. Anonymous texter, Lindsay Clancy, capital letters, is accused of killing her children. She's currently on trial. Please stop saying she did it before the trial was over.
She did.
She admits that she did it.
She admits.
What she is accused of is first-degree murder, which is a legal term of art. But for the texters who are sending us notes, she's admitted that she killed her kids.
Although, you know, there's this whole conspiracy theory all over the internet about her husband. So what's that about?
Let me tell.
Or ex-husband, I should say.
Right, because people, you know, instead of trying to make maternal care better or making access to mental health care better, are busy trying to solve a case where the defendant has admitted to the basic facts of killing the children. They've got all these theories about what Patrick Clancy did or didn't do, and what he may or may not have been doing. But let me tell you this, Kevin Reddington is a defense attorney for 40 years. He has had hundreds of murder cases. He got that doctor who strangled his wife to death, a manslaughter charge, convicted on manslaughter instead of murder. He defended Whitey Bulger's girlfriend. He defended Mo Vaughn. If he thinks that there was an ability to bring the husband in as a third-party culprit, or as to bring any doubt at all that, you know, Lindsay Clancy didn't do this, he would not have submitted that, you know, conceded that she killed the children. And I guarantee that we would be investigating and hearing a lot more about Patrick Clancy, because Kevin Reddington is not going to leave evidence on the table.
No, he's a great
Can we stay on Reddington for a minute? I learned a little factoid that I thought was interesting about Reddington the other day, because most of us know him, obviously, for his vigorous defense of people in murder trials, and as you said, all these high-profile people. It was brought to my attention the other day, he also was the defense attorney for former Governor's Council member who called our show one day, called Marilyn Devaney, when she was accused of assaulting a clerk with a curling iron.
The hairdressers.
And we were talking about that. She called in. And by the way, the end of this interesting little historical factoid, guess who was the reporter who was subpoenaed in that case? Do either of you know?
No. Marjorie Egan.
No, she is currently the press person, the communications director for the governor of Massachusetts, Gillian Fenimore.
I did not know
when
that.
she was a reporter. So there's a little stuff you can...
Yeah, it was a curling iron snafu at the beauty parlor.
You know, Sue, you say on your Twitter, and you say it all the time, I'm a commentator, I'm not a reporter. What does it do to a real person who is not a straight reporter sitting in a courtroom through horror shows like this?
Yeah, I mean, it's awful. And it's not just me. I have to say this case is so terrible that some of the veteran news reporters who have covered for years both the print and TV, everyone has been disturbed and moved by this case on every level. And I'm happy to say that we're all sticking together. NBC is offering counseling to NBC employees. Our bosses are sending us pizza once a week. And we're all trying to stick together to support each other. We are being paid to be there. So I want to just make sure we keep the jurors in our thoughts and prayers and minds, because they're just citizens doing a really, really difficult job. So those of us getting paid there, this is what we do, but the jurors are the real heroes here.
I want to pick up on one thing you said before you leave. If our bosses are listening now, anytime Marjorie and I are depressed, send us a pizza and that will do the trick.
Feel better.
I mean, that's all we need. Sue, you're fabulous. You're doing great coverage. It's great to see you. Talk to you next week. Thanks, Sue O'Connell.
We've been speaking with Sue O'Connell, our media maven. She is the courtroom insider for Commonwealth Confidential, the Lindsay Clancy trials on NBC 10, and Hallie Jackson now on NBCnews.com. Okay, we're going to go to something much lighter. Well, maybe not lighter, because people seem to be pretty worked up about this. We're going to open the lines to get your thoughts on some summer sounds. Apparently, lots of people could live without. The crack of the bat, we love that, but the thwack of the pickleball paddle, not so much. Pickleball uproar, fisticuffs on the pickleball courts. We're going to tell you all about it. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browder. You're listening to BPR 89.7 GBH live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
This week on Under the Radar with Callie Crossley, Boston is home to some of the nation's richest musical legacies. The legendary Fort Apache Studio marks its 40th anniversary, and 2 award-winning local songwriters share career highlights, the past, present, and future of Boston's music scene. That's Under the Radar with me, Callie Crossley, Sunday night at 6 here on 89.7 GBH and the GBH app.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And MIT Sloan Executive Education. Their non-degree executive courses are led by MIT Sloan faculty and are designed to provide a targeted and flexible means to future-proof your business and career. Executive.mit.edu. And Neville Place Assisted Living in Cambridge, providing residents with a range of services designed to help seniors stay sharp, social, and independent. More at nevilleplace.org/care.
Welcome back to BPR 89.7 GBH. Marjorie Egan, Jim Browdy was streaming at youtube.com/GBH News with Library. After years of complaints about this sound, thank you. I love those 5-second delays, by the way. That is a pickleball. Okay, enough of that. That's a pickleball thwacking sound. Great story in the Globe today by Brian Hecht about a situation in Mashpee. This coastal Massachusetts town has taken action, and they have instituted a quiet ball rule, it's called, Marjorie. As of this week, players at Mashpee's public pickleball courts, love saying pickleball, must switch from the classic plastic balls, which cost almost nothing, to a new noise-reducing foam or 3D printed ball. The most expensive ones are $50 a pop, but they got cheaper ones. They're $3 to $30 now, but still a lot of money. Anyone who dares thwack loudly must go toe-to-toe against one man who lives so close to the courts, he hears the ball noise endlessly during waking hours. They're open 8 a.m. to 7:30 p.m.
Listen
that is
to that.
really an aggravating
sound. Okay, can we play that one more time, please? I think
so.
I'm on his side.
Okay, one more
Let's play it
time.
one more time.
Okay. I mean, but that person's like sitting on the net.
No,
I mean,
well, he is 200 and... Oh,
okay,
my God.
Okay, we heard it. I mean, we heard it.
He is 200...
I'm not done yet, by the way.
Ernie Barrows, 250 feet from his house.
Fine.
Okay,
so he's
from his
so
back
fed...
deck.
Good. Ernie Barrows, whoever he is so fed up with the noise.
Yeah.
He's retained, I love this, Marjorie told me about this morning, a pickleball noise solutionist. That's this guy's job, who tours the country taking sound readings for fed-up constituents. He successfully sued the town of Falmouth, I didn't know this, to permanently close a pickleball court near his home. So here's the question. Pickleball enthusiasts, and by the way, it's still the fastest growing sport in America. They say as many as 48 million people, which I cannot believe, are playing. What do you have to say for yourselves? And more broadly, is it time to end the tyranny of the ping and the thwump and the thwack of pickleball? Or are you a pickleball enthusiast who would rather they pry the paddle from your cold, dead hands? The number's 877-301-897. You play pickleball?
No, I've never played pickleball. Have you played pickleball? No, I haven't played pickleball.
Not playing pickleball.
But tensions are really high over this in Mashpee. It's been Ernie Barrows has been a hatred campaign against him. He's getting crucified on social media. On the other hand, 600 people have signed this petition. They do not want this to change. They're very upset. They're passionate about their pickleball. But it isn't just happening in Mashpee. Apparently it's happening in Wellesley. Last year they have banned pickleball at certain courts in Wellesley and Kittery, Maine. They did the same thing in Nantucket. They floated banning pickleball anywhere on the island.
Wow.
People are driven insane by the pickleball sounds. He says he hears it in his sleep.
Can I ask you a question? I don't mean to disparage any of these people involved, either the pickleball noise solutionist or the gentleman you mentioned.
Imagine that for a
if
job.
48 million people have played, I know.
Pickleball.
What do you say to your friends? What do you do for a living? I'm a pickleball noise solutionist. Parents are very proud of this guy. In any case, I'm not questioning the honesty. Enough of the sound. It's driving me nuts.
No, I love the sound.
Okay,
I
don't like
in
it.
The spirit
okay, fine. We're in the spirit. And let me just say this. What am I saying? Oh, if 48 million people allegedly are playing pickleball,
that's right.
Have you ever heard the thwack of the pickleball?
No, I don't live
Neither
there.
have I.
Well, that's because you live in a dense... There's no place to put a pickleball where you live. No place to put a pickleball where I live. But poor Ernie here...
Lives near a pickleball?
Well, he moved to this house years ago, a dead-end street.
Can I tell you what the solution is?
What's the solution,
The
Jim?
solution is not either banning pickleball, nor is it the expensive replacement ball. You know what it is?
What?
Hygge. That's if they practiced. What's hygge again?
Tell people what
hygge is. It's some Nordic crap where you like
comfort.
It's a comfort thing.
That's
where
right.
you calm yourself down, and you won't have to hire a pickleball noise solutionist at great expense.
I think that's Ernie's point. Ernie's point that it's not a very common kind of situation. And by the way, they because there was such upset about the $50 a piece balls, they decided that you can get cheaper balls.
Right.
Did you say that?
Yeah, but it's still not cheap. $30 to $30 is not cheap per ball. The actual pickleball, which I've neither ever played with nor have I ever seen, it costs like cents kind of thing. How many people in the audience play pickleball? It's like 5 people. I mean, there aren't 4. Well, of course he plays pickleball.
Of course he
Of course.
Yep. Okay.
Okay.
877-301-8970 is the number. Whose side are you on here? The beleaguered neighbor who is being driven slowly bananas by all these pickleball sounds, or the enthusiasts who are so passionate about this sport that they packed meetings in Mashpee.
I don't want to bring up a
for
topic
their right.
that's a sore topic. I would
that?
say there are more people in Mashpee protesting the quiet pickleball ball than there are protesting in America the war in Iran. Would you say that's a fair statement?
Jim, we don't have time to protest the
because
war in
we're
Iran
playing pickleball.
Because everybody's at the pickleball
Okay,
court.
fine. Dan and Hopkinton, I really can't take the sound anymore. That's enough. Thank you. Dan, welcome to the show. Hello. No, that's a horse. That's not a pickleball. Hi, Dan. How are you?
Caller.
Yeah.
You're a first-time caller?
Long-time listener.
Oh, well, thank you for both. Yeah.
So I'm a tennis player, and I've been playing tennis for 40 years. And every time I see a tennis court that gets resurfaced and turned into a pickleball court, I just get so angry.
I understand that. Why is that? Why do you get so angry, Dan?
Because they're taking away tennis courts.
Yeah.
And they're adding lines to tennis courts, and it's just very, very hard to track where the ball is supposed to go, and it's just.
How do you feel inside? Wait. How do you feel inside when you see a tennis court that's been converted to a pickleball court? How do you feel, Dan?
Oh, it makes me angry.
You can tell.
Dan, you never hear anybody complaining about the sound of tennis, do
Balls.
you?
No, you don't.
No.
Why is that?
No. Because we've got felt balls, nice, quiet felt balls.
Yeah, nice, quiet, soft balls. That's
Dan,
what they
that
want.
was an excellent first topic to call on. Call again soon. Thank you very much for your contribution. He is wildly against the conversion of tennis courts to pickleball courts.
And you don't hear people complaining about that, or you don't hear people complaining about basketball courts either. Pickleball courts seem to be making a lot of noise. Maybe it's because the sound we keep playing that they're very upset about. Now, these tennis balls that they want to replace, not pickleball balls that they want to replace the balls with, they're called the Vortex ball. As you said, $150 for 3 in a pack. But the pickleball players are very upset about this. They're calling them garbage. And they're saying it's outrageous that they should be required to play with this softer ball, and they just won't have it. They're these pickleball people.
599 of those 600 protesters have never protested anything in their life until the quiet ball was introduced in Mashpee, and that was a bridge or a ball too far. Mia in Salem, welcome to the show. Hi there.
Hi there.
Whoops. We lose you already?
Oh, listen to this.
Wait. Mia's in the middle.
Oh, sorry, Mia. Go
Mia,
ahead.
you still there? We lose you.
Can you hear me okay?
Perfectly.
Yes, we can.
Take it away.
All right. Excellent. Hi. I appreciate this. I was actually just in Mashpee and can attest that there was a lot of pickleball happening. But I started a few years ago, got this smanchy gym membership just to play pickleball, and had to drop the membership. But now here I am years later recovering from surgery and looking to get back into sports. And I've realized more now, like, how accessible of a sport it is. Like, you can really set your own tone and pace depending on who you're playing with. You can either do, dink back and forth, or, it's just like a leisurely type of sport where you can set your own pace, or you can go hard and, slam it against the other team depending on who you're playing with.
I'm so glad you called. We should have mentioned that point. I have a friend who shall remain unnamed, who is the #1 ranked woman in pickleball in New England, and she was actually huge. Yeah, she was like a world-class swimmer. I'll tell you off the air.
You know pickleball? You hang around with pickleball players?
She's not really, but she's one of the most competitive people. I mean that as a compliment. Mia, what we hear from pickleball players whenever we talk about it is how collaborative, or maybe that's not the right word, but how non-aggressively competitive it is for most people. Why is that?
That's a great question. You'll have to ask the other non-competitive people in the world because I am quite competitive myself. However, again, it's just all about who you're playing with, who's on your team. I've had leisurely games where I'm just looking to learn from other people who I'm playing with, and other games where it's like, no, I know I can take these people down.
Well, I tell you, I think the problem in Mashpee is that they're over pickleballed.
I think they're over pickleballed.
That's the problem. They're over pickleballed there. The town manager in Mashpee said he has never endured such an attack from the townspeople as this in 2 decades.
Did you read the next paragraph?
What?
Those 600 people, none of them have been to work in years because once they took a pickleball, that's all they do.
Well, listen to this.
So wait, this person on YouTube says, and I am totally with this person, if they play the pickleball noise again, I am done. And by the way, I am with that person. Now,
what is it?
That's not
tennis.
pickleball. That's tennis.
A lot of grunting goes on in tennis.
They don't grunt in pickleball.
No, they don't grunt.
No.
But they do really grunt in tennis.
Yeah, there's no grunting in pickleball.
The Wellfleet Harbor Actors Theater premiered a play 2 or 3 years ago, says a texter, called Pickleball Wars. Wellfleet is way ahead of the curve.
It won a Tony, by the way.
No.
I just wanted to see if you were paying attention.
The play was very bad, says the texter, but they want to say that that Wellfleet was ahead of the game.
Do you think that, in my opinion, there aren't yet enough books on pickleball or plays on pickleball? No films. Do you know any pickleball films? What was that sexy movie about tennis a couple of years ago?
Conversation or Conversion.
What was that thing called?
Connection, something like that. Yeah, it was a very sexy movie
C
about
word,
tennis.
but not that C word.
Geez,
Another C word, whatever.
Sheila from North Attleboro.
Sheila, what's your deal?
Hi, Jim, Marjorie.
Hi.
Love the show.
Thank you.
My kids in the neighborhood have taken to playing pickleball, so I have some empathy for the folks in Mashpee.
Yeah.
A couple of thoughts, suggestions. Maybe the tech people could come up with a soundproofing for the ball.
Excellent idea.
And
well, that's what the expensive balls are theoretically like a lot less noise. But go ahead.
Okay, well, that's one thing. And hours of operation, meaning, they can only play at certain hours, so you can plan accordingly. Yeah. And earplugs. I don't know what else to say.
Oh, taxpayer-funded earplugs for the population. I like that.
They have put up sound dampening fencing, but apparently
it doesn't work.
It's not quite doing the job. And I think there are 8 pickleball courts in Mashpee. Mashpee's not
How
a big
big
place.
is Mashpee?
It's not very big. And then they go from 7:30 in the morning or 8 in the morning till 7:30 at night. That's a long day for poor Mr. Burroughs, who's 250 feet. Let's play this sound one more time.
No, let's not.
Yes, let's play it. This could be you could be Mr. Burroughs. This is your back deck there in Mashpee where you've lived for years.
I mean, in all seriousness, you go out of your mind. You really would go out of your mind.
Why do you go out of your mind?
You know what that sound makes me want to do? Become a pickleball noise solutionist. That's when this radio thing tries out. That's next. Okay, enough. Really, enough. I mean, it's
the movie
is Challengers. It's not conversation.
You very much. Okay, Heather from Cambridge. Thank you for calling.
Hello, Heather.
Hi, Heather.
Hello, Heather.
What do you think?
Hi.
What do you think?
Hi. I know about 30% of my friends who are between 50 and 60-something have taken up this sport in the last few years, and they love it. And it has given them so much fitness and a lot of community, and I think that's all great. And honestly, I live pretty close to part-time to a pickleball court down in Cape Cod, and I hear the kind of top-line sound of the pickleball. I actually enjoy it because it makes me happy knowing people are happy, they're exercising.
Wait. You enjoy this? No, don't play the tennis grunting sound.
Yeah.
Let's hear the pickleball sound. Don't go away.
Just that.
You like that?
That's awful.
I do, because it's at a distance, and I do admit it's at a distance, but it's enough just to hear that little back and forth.
You're a very good person. Heather, that was a very nice call. Thank
Here's
you for
texter.
making it.
Picklers have no etiquette. They run into neighboring courts during tennis play to retrieve their ball, break the tennis court net, lower it to pickle height. They're loud and obnoxious, get their own damn courts.
Well, that's pretty fierce.
A lot of hostility there. There's a lot of hostility in Mashpee. Oh, we have a Mashpee caller. Frank, hello.
Which side are you on, Frank?
Hi, I'm actually on neither side. I don't play pickleball, and the noise doesn't bother me.
Perfect.
But I just wanted to mention a couple of things. One is that there is an absolutely beautiful indoor pickleball facility in Mashpee.
No.
Yeah, it's called Island Pickle, and it's got these stunning indoor courts.
Really?
It's got a great restaurant and bar.
Okay.
Do you own this place?
And it's got indoor golf as well.
Do you own it?
It's just a beautiful place.
Frank, do you own this place?
No, I don't.
Okay.
But we go there a lot I don't play pickleball, but we go there for dinner, or we watch the World Cup there. They've got big screen TVs, and it's a beautiful spot.
What is it called? Pickle Haven? What's it called
noise-free.
again? What's the name of the joint?
It's called Island Pickle.
Island
Pickle.
Now,
Well,
Frank,
there you
don't
go.
go away. Frank, have you met the pickleball noise solutionist in town or not?
No.
You have not.
I avoid that kind of conflict. I'd rather protest the war.
Okay.
Very good.
Thank you, Frank,
Donna
for calling.
and
I
Hollis.
appreciate it.
I got one other quick
Sure,
point for
why
you.
not? Yeah.
There is a movie called The Dink. It's on Apple TV. It's about pickleball.
Oh, I'll be watching that.
Dink.
Thank you.
Okay.
It's filmed at Island Pickle, if you were not aware.
Donna Halsey says,
Frank,
the funny thing is, if the pickleball ball was a pickle, the sound problem would be solved.
That's a great point. Now, we're done with this because every few months, the staff, in an effort to get back at me or Marjorie or both, put together a little reel of mistakes one or both of us have made. I'm told, sadly, that most of this focuses this month on you, Marjorie, but you're a good sport. So here is what they are called. Well, I don't want to even use that name. Here are some, let's call them bloopers.
Can
I call them bloopers?
The bloopers
From recent BPR.
Yeah,
Here
okay,
it is.
we're ready.
Everybody's into pornography is the bottom line.
No.
But I just want to make sure I'm not missing some big cultural change here. A lot of women are bisexual.
And that was something about shoving glizzy after glizzy. I guess that's their name for hot dogs.
Down my gullet.
Glizzy after
Let's
glizzy
hope it's a
down.
hot dog.
Yeah, that's right.
How was the sex?
It's like the
How was
number
the
one.
sex?
Not as good as
No
you wanted
heated
it to
rivalry.
be.
I like things with bone in it.
Okay, fine.
They
It
really
did
look like
look
a
pretty
natural
good.
with that hoe. It was very impressive. Well, I had a lizard once.
You did not.
I killed it
No,
by accident.
what?
Well, it choked to death on a cockroach. But I didn't mean to kill the lizard. It was absolutely by mistake. But, I've become addicted to the sumo wrestler oranges. And
They're not sumo wrestler oranges,
I'm very
Marjorie.
upset. They kind of look like
There's
sumo
a sumo
wrestlers.
wrestler and there's a sumo orange.
Well, that's why I remember the name of them.
That is an orange.
They're big and they're juicy.
Who was the guy who played that? Didn't he win the movie?
Colin Firth.
The movie
Was it
win?
Colin Firth?
I don't know.
I'm Jim Browdy. He's Marjorie Egan. This is BPR 89.7 GBH
Oh, there-
Live. What?
I'm Jim Browdy.
Oh, oops. Sorry. I didn't do my breathing exercises today. So, streaming at youtube.com/CBS, PBS. No, GBH News. Whoops. Sorry. Okay. And apparently, if you're going on the cruise by yourself.
On the cruise?
On the cruise by yourself.
Marriage is what brings us together. You know what this show is to me?
What is it, Jim?
A dream within a dream. It really is. I mean, it's just so great.
A dweem.
Within a dweem. It's blessed. Is that it?
Okay.
That was not fair. Let's hear it for
Okay.
Marjorie Egan being a
Thank you
fabulous
very much.
sport.
Yeah, well, you gotta
Couple
be who
little
you
bumps
are,
in the
Jim.
road,
You gotta be
whatever.
who you are. Okay, thank you very much for listening to another edition of BPR 89.7. Thanks to everybody who came down to the Boston
Thank
Public
you all
Library.
for coming.
You can keep up with us 24/7 by way of our podcast or check out our TikTok page at Boston Public Radio. On Monday, Jim and I are off because Trina Quinn and Jamie Bologna, our
great.
producer, are hosting. They're going to talk with Boston Globe tech columnist Hiawatha Bray, plus Princeton's Khalil Gibran Mohammed. He's going to talk about the Harvard suit, I think. And we will air our new interview with Sasha Waters on this great new PBS documentary about the poet Mary Oliver.
It's
who spent
fabulous.
a lot of her life in Provincetown, of
Great.
course. I want to
Great.
thank our crew, Zoe Matthews, Hannah Lost, Ariana Gonzalez, our engineer, John LaClaw Parker, our executive producer, Jamie Bologna, the BPL staff, Maddie Geyer, Patrick Lally, Colin Cockrell, Juan Jose Cadena, our security team, Darius and Derek, and our host of the Newsfeed Cafe and across the street at the Lenox Hotel.
Did you read this Curiosity Desk thing? Because I wasn't listening. That's pretty interesting. Did you read that?
No. You
Go
want
ahead.
to read it? Go.
Yeah.
81 years ago on VJ Day, just a few blocks from here, a woman left a baby with a teenage boy. I'll be back in a couple of minutes. She never returned. Edgar is going to talk to that baby's daughter about her search for answers. That is great.
That's pretty great.
Edgar's right after us, and the Culture Show is here at the library. Everybody's at the library. And at 2 o'clock is the Culture Show. I'm Marjorie Egan.
Jim Browley,
Thanks
bye.
for listening. Bye.
From the stories of centuries past to discoveries that will define our future, how did we get here's, how-tos, and more. Journey with us down the rabbit hole on the Curiosity Desk. Coming up next on GBH 89.7.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And New Bedford Whaling Museum, presenting summer exhibits including Sailor's Valentines, Maritime Art from the Heart, Proteana, Susan Heidman, and Look Pleasant, Please, Early Portrait Photography in New Bedford, whalingmuseum.org.
And the Boston Speaker Series, announcing its upcoming season at Symphony Hall for 7 evenings, featuring Pete Buttigieg, former UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson, historian Doris Kearns-Goodwin, and financial journalist Andrew Ross Sorkin. BostonSpeakers.org.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. Today on the Curiosity Desk, live from the Boston Public Library, we begin with our menagerie of misfit news, in case you missed it. Well, in case you missed it, there's still time to celebrate the summer of the purse guy, or for the insecure man in your life, the satchel guy. Then we hear a truly incredible story. One woman's search for her biological grandmother, who left her infant father in the arms of a teenage boy 81 years ago tomorrow on VJ Day. And to close, we welcome back Mentalist Tom Indigo, which I promise has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that he guessed my pin last time he was on the show, and has yet to make a withdrawal. He's going to pull back the curtain on a few of the tricks up his sleeve. Am I mixing metaphors? What are you, the promo police? What is going on? Are we at a rave? I don't know. It's all ahead this hour on the Curiosity Desk.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Janine Herbst. Luigi Mangione has pleaded guilty to federal stalking charges in a New York courtroom today, connected to the shooting death of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. NPR's Brian Mann was in the courtroom and has more.
Speaking in federal court, Luigi Mangione told the judge, "I knew what I was doing." He said, "I shot Mr. Thompson in Manhattan and he died." When the judge asked Luigi Mangione how he pleaded, Mangione said guilty. Sentencing in this case is now set for December. According to the judge, the prosecution has recommended a sentence that would be more than 20 years behind bars, but the judge said repeatedly that the exact penalty that she hands down could be very different.
NPR's Brian Mann reporting from New York. Federal regulators have opened a probe into so-called mention markets. As NPR's Bobby Allen reports, it's a type of prediction market, betting that allows people to wager on words spoken by the president, executives, and sportscasters during live and even sometimes pre-recorded events.
Mention markets have surged in popularity on sites like Kalshi and Polymarket, despite critics who say the markets are easy to rig. Now the Commodity Futures Trading Commission has opened a review of this type of betting, as regulators determine if the markets are susceptible to manipulation. That's according to two sources with direct knowledge of the probe who were not authorized to speak publicly. In response, Kalshi has removed all mention markets for sports, where people were able to bet on whether a sportscaster would say things like MVP or jump shot or overtime. The new review follows the revelation that President Trump's teleprompter operator had been profiting off the president's words on Kalshi. Bobby Allen, NPR News.
Nigel Farage has regained his seat in the UK's parliament, beating fringe candidates led by a trash can-wearing comet in a special election. Farage is the leader of the Anti-Immigration Reform UK party and abruptly quit his seat last month amid an investigation into whether he failed to report a $6.7 million gift from an international crypto billionaire. He has denied any wrongdoing. Retail sales fell more than forecasters expected last month, and Scott Horsley reports.
Retail sales fell by 0.6% last month as consumers dialed back their spending on both cars and appliances. Internet sales also fell during July, partly because Amazon moved its Prime Day promotion up into June this year. Spending was also down at gas stations and grocery stores, which was mainly the result of lower prices. Spending at restaurants and clothing stores rose last month. Oil prices are mixed after 2 tankers from the United Arab Emirates were attacked while trying to cross the Strait of Hormuz. Retail gasoline prices showed little change overnight.
NPR Scott Horsley reporting. Wall Street is trading lower at this hour. You're listening to NPR News.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH newsroom in Boston, I'm Marilyn Scherer. Boston City Councilman Ed Flynn is suggesting calling up the National Guard to help police quell violence after a stabbing incident near North Station. Flynn made the suggestion following the stabbing of a woman and a self-inflicted stabbing of a man yesterday that left them with life-threatening injuries. On Wednesday, there was an unrelated fatal stabbing near South Station. Flynn says the National Guard could assist police since the union says it doesn't have enough police officers to protect the city. The mayor of Lawrence was arrested this morning on federal charges stemming from his alleged misuse of COVID business loans. According to the U.S. Attorney's Office for Massachusetts, Mayor Brian DePena used COVID relief money meant for his tire business to fund his political campaign and other personal debts. He faces 2 federal charges, wire fraud and aiding and abetting. DePena won his office in 2021 and was reelected in 2025. He was previously a member of the city council. In sports, the Red Sox play the Pirates tonight in Pittsburgh at 6:40. A beautiful day is on tap today, high near 83 with a slight chance of late-day showers. Clear and cool tonight, low around 61. A pleasant weekend ahead, sunny, highs in the low 80s with just a chance of late rain Sunday into Monday. And it's 82 degrees right now in Boston. I'm Marilyn Scherer. You're listening to GBH News. And for more original reporting, visit gbhnews.org.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include DuckDuckGo, who believes AI should be optional and who've been building privacy tools for 15 years. They now offer Duck.ai, where users can chat privately with AI. Duck.ai. This is NPR.
Welcome to the Curiosity Desk on GBH 89.7. I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. We are live at the Boston Public Library. We're also streaming live at youtube.com/GBH News. Well, we made it. Welcome to the end of the week, everybody. And that means it's time for another round of our menagerie of misfit news. This is In Case You Missed It. Now, if you were too caught up following primary polls, Carolyn Levitt's exit from the White House press podium, you might have missed the fact that it's the summer of the MERS. That's the man purse for the uninitiated. Climate change also is finally coming for your Parmesan cheese, which apparently is the foundation of the Italian economy. Here to tell us a little bit more about those stories and so much more is Axios Boston reporter Mike Deehan. He is also, by the way, the man who coined our menagerie of misfit news tagline. Your check is still in the mail, Mike. We'll try to get that to you at some point. With him today, CC Paschal, a freelance filmmaker and Peabody Award-winning audio journalist, formerly with NPR's Louder Than a Riot. CC, Mike, welcome back to the Curiosity Desk.
Yes,
yeah.
thank you. Welcome
Thanks for
home,
having us.
I think,
Yeah,
for
it's
both
home.
of us.
Yeah. Well, we're going to get into some of these stories that folks might have missed, but I do want to start with the pickleball thing that we just heard Jim and Marjorie talking about. Pickleball at Mashpee, which folks might have missed right up until the fact that Jim and Marjorie were making sure everybody heard about it. But what do we make of this? So if folks are just joining us now, if they weren't listening a few minutes ago to Boston Public Radio, it's gotten pretty ugly in Mashpee, the battle between the pickleballers and at least one resident who lives very close to the pickleball court and is simply over with the sound and the noise.
Yeah, that single resident may represent a silent majority.
He claims he does. I mean, he basically, he claims that he is the only one who's really speaking out. One of the few who is speaking out as vocally and as publicly as he is. But he does, and in fairness, there have been some petitions. It does seem there are at least some other residents who are with him on this.
But he doesn't have the numbers on his side right now. I mean, there's about 600 pro pickleballers against, 16 signatures.
16
on
signatures
this,
saying,
guys.
yeah, the noise is too much.
But then we did get the distinct pleasure of getting to actually hear some of that sound. And while pickleball has that whimsical quality, you're like, what is it? There's a lot of middle-aged people like cracking their joints to this, and it's all the rage, and it's often sort of touted as, kind of almost a youth culture adjacent activity. Although I hear it transcends generations.
It sounds. Youth culture adjacent activity?
Adjacent.
So wait,
adjacent being the
What exactly is that, CC?
I think it's just people who move their body for fun because they can. It's not like the geriatrics. I'm speaking from the geriatric class of being. I'm in the spectator class. But unfortunately, this comes with a soundtrack that it reminds me of Captain Hook and Peter Pan, where he's just like annoyed by that crocodile sound, like the ticking of it. Like, this guy who's filed the petition
or
talks
the telltale heart,
hearing it in his sleep. I mean, that's on him and his psychiatric.
Don't play it again. Don't play it again.
But it still seems like a nightmare.
I could see being another. So you are, but it sounds like you are on the side of the pickleballers.
No, actually,
after much consideration.
After much consideration, the way that this piece was written, I was ready to just be like, this guy's full of complaints and whatnot. But I do think that it's not fair to ask someone to buy a $50 ball. I also heard the tennis player who was like, "What about tennis balls? They're not so loud." And so I don't know. Unique problems require unique solutions. What you got, Mike?
Yeah, I think that this definitely resonates with a lot of people in these communities that have seen pickleball kind of explode in popularity over the last decade.
Mashpee is the one in the spotlight right now, but
there have
been communities all over.
Well, I think that's why the story has taken off as so much it is. It's not just about Mashpee. It's not really just about the Cape. Plenty of people have a story about what's going on, either in their backyard or at the town park or, some other place where pickleball, because it is so popular and because it is such a beneficial exercise.
Yeah, I mean,
it is.
It's one of the. I mean, we are in
so much positivity behind this.
We are in something of a health crisis.
It just so happens it's the most annoying sound on the planet.
Do you have you been personally scorned?
If you're watching the stream, we have pulled up a picture of myself. It looks like playing pickleball. This is a story we did for the Curiosity Desk at Fenway Park, where they had a pickleball. They had a little pickleball event a couple of years ago at Fenway Park. The thing I will say that is shocking to me, and so the deal here is that they've said you can still play pickleball if you use the softball. Now the issue with the softball is that it costs more money. It's upwards of like $50. But I think the bigger issue is pickleball players say it just doesn't feel the same. It's like you can't really play the game the way you're supposed to play the game with this softball. The thing that I find crazy is that we are this close. We are so close to figuring out nuclear fusion. We have put people on the moon, and we can't come up with a solution for a pickleball that doesn't make noise. That's crazy.
Well, we can't get office printers to work either. There's a lot on the to-do list.
I mean, not to pitch segregation for them, but have we considered just putting the pickleballers in an enclosed area that was soundproofing that is away from the general public? Or is that a touch too far?
Wow, I mean, I think it happens in some places.
It's called a gym, right?
Yeah, it's called. I believe it's called. The full name is gymnasium.
Yes,
that is a gymnasium. Well, moving on to another sort of local story, although this one is taking place at the state level, but it's a classic. And I'm going to turn to you, Mike, first for this, because when I think of the State House here in Massachusetts, I think of Mike Deehan. You covered the State House for us at GBH News for many, many years. But this is one of those state local sort of hybrid things, which is about fortune tellers in Massachusetts. So great piece you might have missed in Commonwealth Magazine this week, all about a bill working its way through the State House that's trying to make some alterations to a state law that's been around since 1963, which says that if you are a fortune teller in the state of Massachusetts, your local community needs to license you. Not only do they have to license you, but you also have to have lived in that community for at least 12 months before you are allowed to get a license to be a fortune teller.
Right.
So what's going on in the State House right now?
Not that.
Yes.
That's certainly a bill that's in the mix. We'll see if it comes to pass in one way or another. Usually things like this will get, creamed into some other larger vehicle bill or
Yeah.
something like that. So don't expect a big, breath-holding vote on the fortune teller licensing
on the future
bill.
of fortune tellers in Massachusetts.
It'll if it happens, it'll be way in the back of something else. But it makes me wonder what the hell was going on in the 1960s that they put this law in to prevent.
Yeah, 1963.
Right. I mean, transient. Fortune tellers going town to town, taking advantage of people. Yeah, exactly. It would make more sense if it was 30, 50 years prior to that. If it was from the Depression era or earlier that you had, like you're saying,
maybe
snake
it took
oil,
a long time to get it on the books.
medicine.
They had to get a lot of people to care about this.
It
right?
is Beacon Hill, and it does take roughly 25 years to get anything passed. So that could very well be the
CC,
answer.
what do you make of this story?
I
mean, do you think fortune tellers? What do you make just in general of the idea that if you're gonna make money on being a fortune teller in Massachusetts, that you got to have a license to do it?
It's not the first time that I've heard of similar kind of bureaucratic processes being brought to the magical and witch world. Early on in my career at NPR, one of the first stories that I ever pitched was, "Hey guys, there's witches in New York," and not only were they there, but they had kind of similar issues where there were some laws on the books there that were designed to protect the consumers, right? Because there's always at the heart of it is how can you quantify or even qualify a profession like soothsaying. So while you do have to get a license in order to practice, I wonder, what is the test like? Do they just give you a tarot deck? Do they give you some tea leaves? Do you get to bring your own adventure?
Well, it will probably surprise no one that the city of Salem is the city where there is the most licensed psychics, right? So they usually have around 100 licensed psychics, and they have put some definition in the Salem ordinance around how to do this. So here is the law in Salem. The ordinance says you're allowed to do it legally, quote, by means of any occult psychic power, faculty, force, clairvoyance, cartomancy, psychometry, phrenology, spirits, tea leaves, tarot cards, scrying, coin, stick, dice, sand, coffee grounds, crystal gazing, or any other such reading, or through mediumship, seership, prophecy, augury, astrology, palmistry, necromancy, mind reading, telepathy,
necromancy.
or other craft, art, science, talisman, charm, potion, magnetism, magnetized article, or substance, or by any such similar thing or act.
I'm sorry. I need you to read that again.
No way. No way, no how. But, I do find something interesting in this, in that, this is an example of, there is any number of people, I think, when they think about, what does my municipal government do? What does my state government do? It's like, what are we sending these people here to do? It's like this kind of stuff. If you have to deal with this, if you are a local official, if you are a state official, because these issues come up, and we have to find ways to define these things, even if they seem silly, by law, because issues come up around this.
I know you're right, and what CC was saying, there is a consumer protection basis to this, where you have people doing business, regardless of what that business is, in your city or town. It is the government's role to regulate that at some way, somehow, and I guess the fortune tellers are the ones that feel the brunt of this now.
I would love to see the fortune-telling constituent community
lobby?
show up.
Where's the
lobby?
Where's the fortune-telling lobby? Well, if you're a fortune teller out there and you're listening, get in touch, and we'll see if we can connect you, and you can fight the fight that you need to fight, whatever side of it you're on.
Do you think they know if the bill's going to pass?
I think they probably must. Yeah. You listen to the Curiosity Desk. We're talking with CC Paschal and Mike Deehan. This is, in case you missed it, our menagerie of misfit news. Well, folks might have also missed that this is apparently the summer of the MERS, the man purse on the rise. This isn't the first time it's been, it's sort of had a steady, steady rise in terms of visibility, in terms of acceptance. But maybe we have reached a tipping point this summer. It sounds a little bit like because of the World Cup. We saw a lot of those European men coming over here, those soccer players, and Europe tends to be a little bit more on the vanguard of fashion than we do here in the United States. And the man purse is apparently in. Now, Michael, I'm looking at you here, and you have a bag, a satchel of some sort.
Yeah, I call it a
purse-like.
A small. It's quite full. I call it more of it's a smaller laptop bag. There's not much in it other than the laptop and some tech gear and stuff like that. But I think it's beyond fashion. It is just utility.
Yeah.
We are carrying more junk around than we ever did before. We'll 2 cell phones, a battery, a USB fan.
But
and
that's why we gave men pockets.
Yeah, exactly.
Were they not good enough for you? We gave you Jenkos in case you wanted to put the laptop in there.
No, you're absolutely right. And as a man who carries a lot of junk, I've always been envious of purses.
So have I.
Beyond
purse envy. Thank you.
Beyond the pockets, because I can't put everything in the pockets.
Yeah. Plus, you want to leave a little bit of mystery, a little bit of intrigue, like what's you got in that bag.
Yeah, and I don't want to ruin the sight lines of my pockets.
Well, so now here I have a little bit of a theory on this, because the pockets, pants pockets can only do so much, right? In the past, men would often, generally speaking, if they were out and about, they would also have some sort of jacket on. That jacket would have 2 inside pockets, 2 outside pockets. Fewer men are wearing jackets out there.
You sound nostalgic.
Well, as I sit here in my jacket, but I wear jackets all the time in part because I need the pockets. So if you don't have the pockets on the jacket, you need some sort of a replacement, and maybe this is adding to why we see the purse and the small bag.
Hear me out. Fisherman's vests.
Fisherman's vests.
Pockets easily accessible in the front.
CC, you want to weigh in on this? What do you got here?
You're right. This has popped up over time where I remember when it was just the, quote, metrosexuals who were wearing the bags.
It was the Seinfeld joke 35 years ago.
Yes, and Joey Tribbiani and the unisex bag,
Right.
And so I think men have always wanted to play with this idea. We've seen it in other areas that have been typically dominated by women. Even in the last 10 years, there's been men wearing more cosmetics and makeup things. So it's just like, in addition to maybe the bar being higher because the people who have to interact with men are demanding more, I think that there is also some of it is just a way to show wealth, right?
Yeah.
Like it's something that you don't need a micro purse that is more expensive than all the things that are in the purse.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And that's the fashion side of it. It has the utility element built in, but if you can spend $5,000 on it and people know you spent $5,000 on it, then so be it.
Yeah.
But I will say, as a regular purse holder carrier, one of the ways that purses get you is that you have more real estate, so obviously you're going to be carrying around more things. There's always something random, so I want to know what's your random thing that's in your bag.
Oh, the most random thing is
there's got to be something.
Probably a wrist rest.
A wrist rest?
Yeah.
What is a wrist rest?
It's like a soft piece of plastic so I don't get carpal tunnel.
You bring your own ergonomic setup.
Yeah, I do.
That says hardworking man. All right, that is all the time we have. In case you missed it, we've been speaking with Axios Boston's Mike Deehan and freelance filmmaker, Peabody Award-winning audio journalist CC Paschal. Mike, CC, thanks so much for being with us.
Great to be with you.
Thanks for having us.
When we return, it's honestly hard to overstate just how remarkable the story of little Mr. Victory is. Left in the arms of a teenage boy on Boston Common 81 years ago tomorrow, just a couple blocks from here. It's the focus of a new book that is perfect for your late August beach day. The book's authors, which includes the daughter of that little mister, join us next. This is the Curiosity Desk. We're live at the Boston Public Library. Stick around.
I'm Jared Bowen. Today on The Culture Show, before Anthony Bourdain became the swaggering chef, writer, and world traveler, he was a cocky college kid getting his first taste of restaurant life in Provincetown. The new film Tony goes back to the beginning. And with a new podcast, Barack Obama explores the books that shaped who he is and what he believes. We take on that and more in our Week in Review today at 2 on 89.7 GBH.
Support for our programs comes from you.
And the Museum of Science. From live science demonstrations to hands-on exhibits, families can explore the wonders of Earth's evolution and the frontiers of space this summer. Learn more at MOS.org. And Innuendo in Natick, presenting Hunter Douglas Duet Architella PowerView shades for homes and offices. Hunter Douglas PowerView automation, measured and installed by their technicians at Innuendo and Innuendo.com.
You are listening to The Curiosity Desk on GBH 89.7. I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. We're live at the Boston Public Library. We're streaming live at youtube.com/GBH News. Well, this Saturday is the anniversary of VJ Day. That's the Japanese surrender in 1945 and the end of World War II. If you're crunching the numbers at home, tomorrow marks 81 years. It's also the 81st anniversary of a chance encounter that would send our next guests on a remarkable decades-long quest to discover what came of her grandmother, who left her infant father in the arms of a teenage newsboy just a couple of blocks away from here during the chaos and celebration at the war's end. That granddaughter is Tina Drzal, who joins us via Zoom. Also with her at the BPL studio desk with me is David Kruh, writer, historian, and her co-author for the book that tells this incredible story. The book is called Little Mr. Victory, A Daughter's Search for the Woman Who Abandoned Her Father on VJ Day. Tina Drzal, David Kruh, welcome to the Curiosity Desk. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you very much for having us.
Yes.
David, I want to start with you. Maybe just briefly paint us a picture of Boston Common, VJ Day. It's 1945. This is where this incredible event, this incredible story kind of begins. Mm-hmm. But tell us about that day.
Well, it's exciting to be here, and it's very special for me because I discovered this story here in this building while researching an article that I thought would be fun. What was it like to be in Boston on this day of all days, perhaps one of the happiest days in American history? August 15th, 1945, the war is over. This city was bedlam, people banging pots and pans, parades and marching bands and people hugging and kissing and crying. And through all of this, there was a newsboy sitting on a bench in the Boston Common.
So just a couple blocks from where we're sitting right now.
Just a few blocks. But matter of fact, walking here to the library this morning, I made it a point to stop by those benches and imagine that moment when a woman walked through the celebrating crowd to a newsboy, a kid named Charles Spataro, an East Boston kid, Boston Latin student. He's waiting to go to work, and she says, "Would you watch my baby for me while I ran an errand?" 15 minutes go by. A half an hour goes by, and she doesn't come back. And that begins the story. When I wrote my article, because I could not find the end to the story, I looked through all the papers in August of 1945. There was no answer. Who was this baby? Who was this woman? So I moved on, but I never forgot him. 10 years later, I wrote another article, which also got published in the Globe, on the 60th anniversary of VJ Day about this baby, Little Mr. Victory. So and I think at this point, Tina should pick up the story because this is where the book really begins to happen.
Yeah, I'm going to go to Tina in a second. So to clarify, so what happens on this day is this boy is, as you say, it's given to a paper boy. Mm-hmm. He then makes his way from a paper boy to a group of young women.
Well, they see him, actually. Yeah. They see this boy holding a baby, which had started to fuss, which is babies are tending to do. And that looks strange to them. And these three young women from Dorchester flagged down a patrol car and
the baby gets taken to the hospital, and then the papers are covering this for a couple of weeks, and then it basically goes away. So this baby goes into, a foster care system, etc. And now we will bring Tina in, who it turns out this baby that we're talking about eventually is adopted, is raised, and has a daughter, and that's you.
That's me. Me and my sister both, but yeah.
So growing up, what did your father know and not know about his own beginnings, and how did this sort of mystery shape him?
My father always knew he was adopted, and my grandparents, my grandma saved one article. When they adopted him, the foster home he was living in had a copy of the one article, and they had that article and gave it to my grandmother. So my grandparents knew the story behind his being abandoned, and my father knew he was adopted and was abandoned. But beyond that, they didn't talk about it much. It was sort of, it just wasn't talked about in those days nearly as much.
So your father, searched for answers, before he passed away in 1987. But you are the one who really picks up the mantle and tries to figure out what exactly happened here. Who was this woman who left him with the newsboy? Why did you sort of take up the mantle and try to find answers here?
Well, the last time I saw my father alive, it was one of those real defining moments for us, talking about everything in his past and him explaining more and him explaining why it was always bothering him, and he just always really wanted to know. And I remember this. He said, "I want to know why I move my hands this way. I want to know why my hair is this way. I want to know this. I want to know that." And I said, "Okay, well then let's find out." And I took the task then, and then unfortunately he passed away the following year, and so I thought, well, I have to do this for him.
Yeah. So how did you two connect? How did you two find each other?
It was kismet. It was a beautiful, right? So in 2005, my article about Tina's dad appears in the paper, and I ended it with this. I call it my Hail Mary. I said, if little Mr. Victory is alive today, he is 60 years old. Does he know how he ended up in the arms of the stranger on the greatest day in Boston?
At this point, you don't even know where he is, right? You don't know if he's alive. You don't know if he's dead.
So, as I say, I discovered the story here. I returned to this library over those 10 years from 95 to 2005 with my wife, and we went through every newspaper until the end of 45, and there was no story. But when my story got published, now we have something called the Internet. And that's, Tina, I think, can explain what happened next.
Yeah. So I looked and looked, and I remember when the internet first became accessible. And I remember doing, people didn't even know how to search properly, But I remember it being accessible and thinking, well, okay, because I had seen that show, who do you think you are? And then I had heard about something called Family Finders. So I thought, okay, well, we can start here. Maybe there's something out there. So I started digging around that way. You find resources at that point in time of the internet, and they're really pricey, really expensive, and they're just not nearly as many. And then I left. I was working for United. I left. I went to culinary school, and suddenly I had a library full of other free resources. And so it opened up the doors to me searching more. And something had popped up in the title, Dave's article actually, and it was a paid article. And I'm like, well, I got to buy it. So I paid for the article. I saw his name, and I'm yelling from I'm downstairs. My husband's working up here. He works from home, and I'm yelling. I'm like, you're not going to believe what I found. You got to see this. You got to see this. Someone else was looking for him. And then all of a sudden my heart sank because I thought, oh, I have to tell this person he died. Oh no. But that day I just started digging around. My nickname, the Penguin. I started digging around. I found out where Dave worked. I found out the naming convention of email addresses at his work, and then I sent him an email.
Please,
and said, hey.
It's less creepy than it sounds.
No,
folks,
it's good sleuth. I was just thinking that's good sleuthing. Like I've definitely, it's great,
terrific, and that started our relationship. But 2008 is also important because not only do you have the internet, but you have DNA, and these companies that were selling DNA analysis and allowing you to build your family tree. And that's, again, around the time that Tina, you began to explore if that was a way to find out.
Yeah, so basically when you two connect, you are looking to find out answers as to who had left this boy in the arms of a newspaper person. You, Tina, are like also looking for answers because your father didn't know, you didn't know. So you meet it up and you say, let's team up and pool our resources and see between the two of us if we can't figure out who your, Tina, biological grandmother is on your father's side.
Yeah. And about a year after Dave and I actually met for the first time, which that was really fun, right? My husband surprised me for an anniversary trip, and I got to meet Dave face to face. for the first time. So about a year after that is when 23andMe, the first one, started advertising all these really great prices on DNA testing. And, Dave and I talked and I said, I'm doing it. I need to do this.
Yeah.
So I did that, and then that opened up everything.
You're listening to Curiosity Desk. We're talking with Tina Drzal and David Kruh about their book, Little Mr. Victory, A Daughter's Search for the Woman Who Abandoned Her Father on VJ Day. Well, is it as simple as that? Once you do the 23andMe or Ancestry and the whole family tree popped up and you were like, okay, we got it.
We wished it had been that simple. With all of my experience and skills as a researcher, genealogy is a totally different animal. And it turned out, as I'm researching and I'm trying to find stories about these foster homes, because Tina, as a blood relative, had his entire foster care record. I said, okay, let's build a story about his upbringing. Well, I posted on several Facebook groups on the South Shore trying to find more information. And this woman named Nikki Brown, she said, I want to help you. I'm a genealogist. And it was Nikki who poured through their SNPs and CMs, genealogists and biologists, you know these things. And she put these things together. And eventually, between the three of us, we found Tina's grandmother. And we found that what she did after she abandoned Tina's dad was not the most shocking thing that she did in her life. And that's the kicker, if you will, in the book.
Well, Tina, how long is this, a course of time, is this sort of search playing out over once you take this DNA test? And what is going through your mind as you are taking steps that are getting you closer and closer to finding out, this answer? I mean, were you excited? Was it daunting? Was it complicated?
Yes, and yes. I think for me, it was a sense of, you get that intense sense of time. And it's, wow, you think about how old my dad would have been and grandparents. And in my mind, maybe they were like a young couple and teenagers, and maybe they're still alive. Maybe it turns out she was alive for a while. I just had not found her yet. But so my thought was, what if there's other relatives out there? Time is ticking away. I really would love to find other relatives if possible. So yeah, it was daunting. Plus the thing with a lot of these messaging, you can message, but I mean, let's be realistic. A lot of us have so many different ways of messaging, right? We have emails and texting and blah, blah, blah. And so there's that message service within these DNA things. Well, the first relative that popped up, she put her stuff out there, but didn't really check messages, which I totally understand. You're not looking at something like that every day. So it took a while. And long story short, she just kind of let that go because she kind of forgot about that whole thing. So she wasn't responding at first. And I thought it was because, maybe she knew and she didn't want to acknowledge it. Mm-hmm. And it turns out that wasn't it at all. She just really hadn't seen my message.
Interesting. Without giving everything away that's in the book, what do we know that we didn't know before? You said we found Tina's biological grandmother. Do we know?
Yeah, I'll tell you what happened. So when we started connecting with many of Tina's relatives, and they are, matter of fact, my wife and I, we hosted several of them at our home. They happen to be in the Boston area. Yeah. We've gotten to, Tina's found a whole bunch of relatives, and we've gotten a whole bunch of friends. And
built your own little family trying to figure out Tina's family.
They did tell us something really interesting about what they found. Now, we can tell you, I'll tell you that the woman was from Providence, and a month after she disappeared, after abandoning Tina's dad, a bill arrived at the home where she was living for what was described to us as an upscale fashion, a boutique.
Yeah.
So of a dress. And the newsboy, Charles Spataro, was very specific when the police asked him about the woman. He said she was a well-dressed woman. So she bought that outfit
to do this?
Knowing what was going to take place in a short period of time. And so we find these little nuggets out about this family, and also to Tina's point about what was in her mind, what was she thinking. And I agree with Tina, who would say she did what she felt was best for this baby. We both, I think she'd agree, it really was the best, because here we are.
Yeah, I mean, Tina, how do you process all of this? Which is to say, you get a certain amount of answers, in terms of finding out, this is who this person was. But as David's pointing out, you can sort of extrapolate or try to figure out what was in her mind. But there is still some mystery to this in terms of why. I mean, how do you process that? How do you live sort of with that?
It was such a different time, and from the research that we did, her first marriage that she was in at the time she was pregnant with my dad was not healthy, was not good. There seemed to be some possibly domestic violence, not sure. There were some interesting articles and interesting stories that we found. And when you think about that time, you couldn't abandon a baby without being arrested. There wasn't drop-off places like like there is now, where there's safe zones to drop off babies. You couldn't do that. And being Portuguese and probably so, distinct, typical, and Portuguese community, if someone had recognized her or recognized the way she dressed or something like that, that would have been more likely for her to be found and possibly arrested. She knew she couldn't keep him because she already had 2 kids. She was still married. She had to do something to keep him safe. And I really believe that what she did because she wanted to make sure he was safe. And she knew there was police around. She knew that there was enough people that he would be taken somewhere safe, and she wouldn't be arrested. So, I mean, I really, again, I've said this before, I don't condone it, but I understand it. Yeah. I've been a single mom. I understand it. It was a very different time. Very different time.
It's a remarkable story, and it's riveting in the way it's told in this book. We've been speaking with historian David Kruh and Tina Drzal. Their book, Little Mr. Victory, A Daughter's Search for the Woman Who Abandoned Her Father on VJ Day. I highly recommend it. David Kruh, DavidKruh.com to order a copy, or you can find it at your local bookstore or the Boston Public Library. Thank you both for being with us and sharing your story with us today.
Thank you.
When we return, want a copy of Little Mr. Victory, but you're looking to scrounge up the cash? Maybe it's time to turn to some mentalism. The incredible, much more ethical than I, Tom Indigo, has a trick you can learn by keeping those dials tuned to 89.7 or keeping your butts in the seat here at the Boston Public Library. This is the Curiosity Desk. Stay with us.
I'm Saraya Wintersmith. Today on GBH's All Things Considered, the mayor of Lawrence has been arrested, with federal authorities accusing him of money laundering and wire fraud. And this week on the Joy Beat, we're getting ready for back to school with the Corey C. Griffin Foundation, giving Boston kids backpacks filled with school supplies. Those stories and all the day's news starting at 4 on GBH's All Things Considered.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And Subaru of New England. The all-wheel drive 2026 Subaru Outback is designed for summer adventures. Subaru retailer locations at SubaruofNewEngland.com. And Compass on the Bay, an assisted living community in South Boston for those with Alzheimer's and related dementias, with research-based therapeutic programming for those with memory loss. More at CompassOnTheBay.com.
You are listening to the Curiosity Desk on GBH 89.7. I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. We're live at the Boston Public Library, and we're streaming live at youtube.com/GBH News. As you probably know by now, here on the Curiosity Desk, we love a little magic and mentalism. It could be All Things Considered host Arun Roth getting every listener at home with a couple of pennies to collectively think of the number 9. could be our next guest making his first reappearance, correctly guessing my pin over the radio to our millions, potentially billions of listeners, or when my staff performs their own brand of mentalism and brings me a cortado when I'm undercaffeinated and cranky at 12:57. Now, typically with mentalism, the magic is in the not knowing, but we're going to flip the script a little today. Our guest is going to teach us how to do some mentalism, and it might just help you win a buck or two at your local pub. The guest is mentalist and keynote speaker Tom Indigo. By the way, Tom's not just a radio guest. He performs for everyone, nonprofits, Fortune 500 companies. I suppose your private party if you pay enough. TomIndigo.com for more. Tom Indigo, we have missed you. Thank you for coming back. You knew you'd be back, didn't you?
I sure did, yeah.
Indeed,
that's part
indeed.
of the game.
Well, we're glad to have you back again here. But let's get started. We just said you're going to teach us a little of what you do. We're going to lift the curtain on some mentalism. So have at it, my friend.
Absolutely. So let's jump into it with, really for me, this started as a bar bet, which I learned back in Chicago. But we'll play this together right now. For anyone who's just listening and can't see, we have a $100 bill here. This would be a bill that if you were performing this stunt, you would provide the bill.
And this is a real $100 bill.
And of course, if you don't want to gamble with money, you could put absolutely anything there. A poker chip, a coaster. It doesn't really matter. It just matters that there's a target for us to hit, by the way.
Already, I love it. I just got to tell you, like, this is a trick I learned in Chicago.
Yeah,
like, there's something about that feels like
birthplace of close-up magic and bar scams. That's really what this is all about.
A beautiful melange.
So,
all right, go ahead.
I think you'll appreciate this. So the way this will work, you go 2 hand lengths above the bill, so about this high, about here. Put your hand here, Edgar.
Okay.
About 2 hand lengths above the bill.
So
right
what
where
I'm
my
doing
hand
is beep, boop. All right, so I'm putting my hand up. I would say that's about a foot, maybe
a little more than a foot,
14 inches.
Yeah, more or less. That's why I like to do 2 hand lengths for anyone who's watching this. If you extend both of your thumbs outwards,
I see.
Just to make sure it's nice and high.
Okay.
Right? And then I'll go twice as high as you.
And
so
you're
much,
go
much,
twice
much
as
higher.
high as
right.
me. All right.
Now,
so
name
we're
of the game is
standing here
simple.
with our hands way up in the air. All right.
Now mine is above yours, roughly double in length. Make
Yep.
sure that they're lined up so they're both above the bill along the same axis here. Very
I
good.
see.
And
what are we going to do?
Well, we're both going to try to catch that bill. Whoever catches it first wins.
That's it?
That's it. Now, there are a couple of rules.
Okay.
One, there's no trick here where I'm going to reach out with a different hand. It's going to be the hand that's floating above
Okay, so you're not going to, like,
There's no
do one of
trickery,
those.
no
Yeah.
tomfoolery, nothing like that.
No Tom Indigo foolery.
Pardon the pun.
No, it's okay.
And the other rule is you're not allowed to start going until I start going.
Okay.
Right?
So
So if I shake a little bit like this, that doesn't count. If I start moving towards the bill, that does count. You can start going.
I got to be quick twitch here. I'm watching for your hand
Yeah,
to move.
it's a
And you're
reflex
saying
test.
my hand, which is twice as close to this bill as yours is, as soon as I see you move, if I can get this, it's mine?
yours to keep. And if I end up catching it first, I get to keep my 100 and you buy me a coffee, a cortado after the show. Fair enough?
Okay. All right. Let's do it because I actually feel like I should definitely be able to do this.
You would think, right?
Yeah.
Everyone does. Game starts now. Ready?
Uh-huh. All right.
Now, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter when I go for it. We could try again if you would like.
I want to go again.
Appreciate the
All
pitching.
right. So for folks who are just listening, Tom definitely beat me to the bill. It really wasn't even that close.
It hit the bill
also,
before
one
your
of
hand
your
even
rings
started
is
moving.
kind of sharp.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's just to deter you from going too quickly, of course.
All right. We're going to
not
go
above
for it again.
cheating here.
We're going to go for it again. All right. So two
hand lengths.
hand
yep.
lengths. Up.
Oh, yeah,
Drop
that's
the
one way to
$100
get the bill. Absolutely.
2 hand lengths. Boop, bop.
Boop.
Okay.
And I'll go about twice as high. Would you
Yeah.
agree that's twice
I would
as high?
agree that's twice as high.
And remember, you don't start until I start.
I don't start until you start.
Ready?
Here we go.
Not even close.
Not even close. All right. Tom
So-
Indigo twice keeping his $100 bills.
Thank you very much.
I now know
keep that.
I owe you 2 cortados. All right. So what's the principle with that trick, and how is that a form of mentalism?
Yeah, so I mean, it really depends on how you define mentalism, but for me, mentalism is any kind of magical or surprising thing that celebrates the potential of the human mind. And in this case, the phenomenon that we're working with is really you don't have the processing power and the processing speed to go in time with me, right? Like the amount of time it takes for me to initiate the movement of the hand, that's really fast for me.
Yeah.
You need to recognize that the hand is moving, which is one cognitive step.
Yep.
And then you need to start moving, which is a
Yeah.
second step. There's more processing happening from you than from me.
Right.
And that amount of time that it takes to process that, it takes about a second.
It's just never going to work.
Yeah.
Even if I'm like a pro athlete.
If you were the type of athlete who has very fast reflexes, think like a boxer or
like
MMA fighter,
ping pong.
Yeah, exactly. Any of these people, it would still probably not work.
Wow. Amazing.
It's just one of those interesting limitations about the mind.
This is one you can take to your local bar and
exactly, and you don't have to explain it. But traditionally, this is done to win a free drink. But if you're a teacher or a camp counselor, it can be used as a way of teaching your students about attention, reflexes, or just that you don't understand your mind as well as you think you do. It's just a good way to get into other educational material.
All right, we're talking with mentalist Tom Indigo. This is the Curiosity Desk. Before we get to your final trick, I do want to talk a little bit about, like one of the principles of mentalism, is that a piece of it, anyway, is really about, to a certain extent, reading a person, understanding a person. And you posit that there are things in that principle that we could all sort of learn from in terms of just how to communicate with somebody, how to look at somebody and maybe connect with them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that there are some people who have these skills kind of naturally and some people who can work them. I think that they're all trainable and that anyone can learn most of the skills that a mentalist uses to read people. So the one that I thought would be especially helpful for our viewers here would be, I call it making space for the other person.
Making space for the other person. Okay.
Yeah, or becoming space for the other person. Basically, the thing that stops us from being able to connect with people effectively, to feel like you really have rapport with someone, it usually comes down to you playing two roles at the same time. You're the person who is listening, but also you feel like you need to be engaging with the other person somehow. And you don't need to do any of that. We try too hard to participate in conversation sometimes. The way to counteract that, just to make it super, super tangible, if you ever want to just have a feeling of connection with someone and start to empathize, start to really just feel where they're at, you start by just breathing in. And then you exhale, and as you exhale, you allow your eyes to get really soft. It's almost like you let your peripheral vision start to bleed in a little bit more.
Okay.
As your peripheral vision gets wider, as that gaze softens, just let it travel all the way to your ears, and just start to notice the sounds around you. And just imagine that you have no face. It's a very strange thing to say, but if you do that, you can kind of replace the other person's face with your own. And so you can see, are there certain lines on their face that indicate that they raise their eyebrows a lot, like you do, for example, which signals astonishment? Or you have some lines on your face that tell me that you tend to genuinely laugh and smile a lot. That would be these guys right here that I'm pointing to. I have them as well. If you just allow yourself to stop being a person in the conversation and just be space for a moment in this way, just deep breath in, and just let your gaze get wide and your ears get wide as well, and just let your face disappear and it's just the other person. Even if you do that for a moment, and you don't need to make like a big show of it like I'm doing right now. It can be very subtle, it can be very quick, it can just be and there's just a moment there that feels like connection. It's hard to put into words, but anyone who tries this back at home, you could even try it looking in the mirror, which is a really interesting exercise.
Cool.
You learn a little bit about yourself there, and that's that's the part of the work that is most interesting to me, because that's where the real connection is.
And when you do this, when you sort of employ this with somebody else, do you sort of see them immediately respond to it?
Sometimes, yeah. It really, when I'm doing it, I usually am having them think of a specific piece of information as well. And there are many ways to get a piece of information out of somebody's head. Those are published, but I'm not allowed to share any of those here, unfortunately. But if you Google it, it's really not that hard to find.
Right on.
Yeah.
All right, our guest, mentalist, keynote speaker Tom Indigo. We are now going to get some volunteers from GBH's The Culture Show, which is the next show up here at the Boston Public Library. And what we're going to do is Tom has got a final trick for. Is trick the word? A final?
We could call it a trick, a demonstration. I like to think of it as as a demonstration.
Okay, so we've got a demonstration of mentalism coming from Tom Indigo, and we've got 3 volunteers who I'm looking over here. We've got the one and only Jeremy Siegel, the one and only Jared Bowen, and the one and only Lisa Simmons. They'll be up next with the Culture Show Week in Review. Step on up to the mic, y'all, and we're going to let Tom take it away with you. I have no idea what's going to happen here, so this is exciting. Let's go.
Yeah, this is especially exciting for me because all of our viewers back at home will be able to participate as well. They'll be able to follow along. Anyone who has a calculator, including in our studio audience here, go ahead and open up that calculator. Feel free to follow along. It's going to be really interesting.
You three ready for this?
You have no idea what to expect. I love it.
I know. Everybody's like, what is this?
I'll preface this with, this is one of my favorite things to perform of all time because what it's really about is about this moment and how lucky we are to get to share this moment together. I mean, think about it. How many people right now are listening to us and connected with us even though they're not here? It's a miracle. It's amazing.
It's the miracle of radio and television and streaming.
Absolutely. And just, the fact that we can communicate at all. It's incredible.
Yeah.
So you'll be helping me with this as well, Edgar. But anyone who has a calculator, you can follow along. If you don't mind, whoever's at the mic first, go ahead and just approach it.
Jared Bowen stepping away from the mic.
Hi, how's it going? I can't quite hear you through the
we can't hear
here.
Lisa. That's okay. Shout it.
Yeah. Excellent. You can go ahead and just shout. So forgive me, your name again? Lisa, my name's Tom. Lisa, if you could just name any 3-digit number out loud now. 908. So anyone who has a calculator, enter 908 into your calculator and then hit times. Next friend? Hi. 813. Any significance to 813? What is the significance? That's okay. We could talk about that. That means it's from his social. That's no, maybe not. We'll see. So go ahead and hit times 813, and then times our last 3-digit number, please. 922. So everyone should have 908 times 813 times 922. I'll repeat the numbers a few times just so that people can follow along. Anyone with a calculator, I'm looking for shouts of confirmation from the studio audience. Do we currently have 680,624,088?
Yes.
Yes. Excellent.
Audience,
cool.
yeah.
We're all on the same page. This is just to confirm nothing sneaky has happened.
Okay.
Edgar, if you don't mind. Everyone hit minus on your calculator.
All right.
And then, if you could just tap 9 random places on my calculator.
Okay,
just,
from underneath.
Yeah, just hit 9 random digits.
Boop,
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And miraculously, you actually hit 9 digits. So the number we're subtracting is 679-809-933. Again, that's 679-809-933.
And I will confirm that I randomly tapped that. So that this is true randomness.
True randomness
introduced in here.
And if we hit equals, the number that we get is 814,155.
Is that what? Is anybody still following along trying to do it? Yeah.
Doing our best here.
Confirmation that's the number?
Excellent.
All right,
now,
814-155.
Yeah, 814-155. Now, this is really interesting, and anyone following along at home, you'll really appreciate this, because I told you this was about celebrating this moment right now. And I'll ask you, what is today's date? It's August 14th. And what time is it right now?
1:55. That is nutty!
That's the magic of the moment. Thank you very much, everyone.
Let's hear it for
Edgar,
Tom
thank you
Indigo.
so much. And thank you to all of our wonderful volunteers
That was
here.
kind
Appreciate
of crazy.
Blows my mind every time it works.
Culture show, folks. Step up to the mic. I want your reactions to this before we find out what's on the show. That was crazy, right, Jared?
That was pretty incredible. I haven't seen anything like that. What if I had shared the significance? Would that have made a difference?
That would have just changed how I would approach you after the show. I like making nice conversation. The rule we like to follow as mentalists is be more interested than interesting, so I just ask sometimes.
You did.
Jeremy, thoughts on what just happened?
My only thought is what? Can you explain it?
Can you explain it?
I think I'm actually not allowed to explain that one.
Yeah.
There's a very common magic trick that is very similar to this. Anyone who knows this trick knows that the method that I used is not possible here, so just for the sake of respecting the secret within a secret.
That's still pretty incredible. Lisa, thoughts?
Yeah. My thought was, do you have another piece of paper under the desk?
I was hearing about man purses earlier in one of your previous segments. I have so many pieces of paper here, but I really don't think that would help me that much, right?
Unbelievable. Really, really unbelievable. All right, let's hear it one more time for Mentalist and keynote speaker Tom Indigo. That's incredible. Speaking of incredible, always incredible, the Culture Show and the Friday Arts and Culture Week in Review. What are you taking on today, Jared?
Well, of course, the big film Tony is opening this weekend, and so we'll be talking about that. I think we all have a connection to the film somehow. The Tupac murder trial is getting underway, so we'll look at what happens if you're somebody who's being tried and you wrote about your involvement, but then say that it's all made up and how that's going to play out before a jury. And then we'll be talking about books, whether it's okay to give up on a book after you've already started it.
That's a contentious question. That is the Arts and Culture Weekend Review from the Culture Show. They are following us up here, so if you are at the Boston Public Library, do not go anywhere. That's happening here and on 89.7. As for us, that about does it for now. The Curiosity Desk is produced by Aidan Connolly, Rachel Armani, Olivia Corcio, and Hannah Loss. Our intern is Mukta Dharmapurkar. Patty Daniels and Jamie Bologna keep us from going mental. Our engineer, John LeClaw Parker. Special thanks to Andrew Massawa, Maddie Geyer, Colin Cockrell, and Patrick Lally. We will be right back on Monday on GBH 89.7, streaming on YouTube. If you can't wait that long, we got a podcast version of the show. You can check that out wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks to our hosts at the Newsfeed Cafe, the fabulous team at the Lennox across the street, and our security team, Darius and Derek. Thanks to everybody who came out to see us today at the Boston Public Library. It's always great to see you. We appreciate it. Till next time, I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. I hope you all will stay curious out there.
What's trending? What's interesting? What's going on around town? We're talking all things arts and culture on The Culture Show, next on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And Newport Mansions, presenting Loyalty or Liberty, a new play exploring the difficult choices Newporters faced during the American Revolution. Performances at Hunter House in Newport, Tuesdays and Saturdays. NewportMansions.org. Calling all Thunderheads. Celtic Thunder returns to New England, and we have exclusive tickets to their show. We also look back at the moments that made them so popular. Watch Celtic Thunder, Ireland, tonight at 7:30 on GBH2.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
Good afternoon from the GBH Newsroom in Boston. I'm Marilyn Scherer, in for Henry Santoro. The MBTA will pay $500,000 to its chief communications officer after her hair was pulled at a public dinner by the agency's general manager. The settlement announced today by the agency says GM Phil Eng admitted to and apologized for the 2024 incident, but it does not include an admission of wrongdoing by Eng. Gabrielle Mondestin will resign from the MBTA on September 18th with the nearly $500,000 settlement. Back in June, Eng had called it an insensitive interaction. Lawrence Mayor Brian DePena will appear in federal court in Boston today after his arrest for pandemic loan fraud and money laundering. The 61-year-old DePena is charged with fraudulently obtaining over $1.5 million in COVID small business loans, according to the U.S. Attorney's Office in Massachusetts. He then allegedly used the proceeds to fund his campaign account, pay personal taxes, and pay off $880,000 in high-interest mortgages on various properties he owns in Lawrence. Boston Police Commissioner Michael Cox says he plans to beef up security measures for this Sunday's Dominican parade due to concerns about violence in the city. Cox called the parade a family fun event during a press conference yesterday and says most of the recent violent incidents happened late at night in the city and involved alcohol, guns, and drugs. He added the beefed up security comes after 5 people were shot at the festival 2 years ago. A beautiful day today, highs near 83. 83 with a slight chance of a late day shower. Clear and cool tonight, low around 61. Pleasant weekend ahead, sunny, highs in the low 80s with a chance of rain late Sunday into Monday. It's 82 degrees in Boston. I'm Marilyn Sharon. You're listening to GBH News. And up next, stay tuned for The Culture Show with your friend and mine, Jared Bowen, coming up now.
I'm Jared Bowen. Coming up on The Culture Show, it's our Week in Review. Before Anthony Bourdain became Anthony Bourdain, he was Tony, a cocky college kid washing dishes in Provincetown and discovering the world of restaurant kitchens. The new biopic, Tony, goes back to that formative 1970s summer and the messy beginnings of a culinary icon. From there, bad news, your emojis may be outing your aging ways. The face with tears of joy, that's dated. The skull, already passé. Teenagers have moved on again, and if you have no idea what the wilting rose means, that may be the point. Plus, Barack Obama has been sharing his reading lists for years. Now he's taking us inside them. In a new podcast, the former president and best-selling author sits down with friends to revisit 6 books, from James Baldwin to Toni Morrison, to explore why these writers have stayed with him. And in Wales, fiction just won a battle with history. Harry Potter fans objected when a multi-million-dollar power cable threatened the beach where Dobby, the beloved fictional house elf, is memorialized. Engineers rerouted it and brought the project closer to actual Bronze Age burial remains. Apparently, even ancient history knows better than to cross Potterheads. We take on all that and more right now on our Week in Review.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's art and culture programming.
This is The Culture Show, live from our GBH studio at the Boston Public Library and streaming on the GBH News YouTube channel. I'm Jared Bowen.
I'm Lisa Simmons.
And I'm Jeremy Siegel.
We're going over the latest arts and culture headlines in our Week in Review, starting with Anthony Bourdain. Long before he became a celebrated chef, best-selling writer, and globe-trotting television host, he was Tony, a cocky 19-year-old who thought he was going to be a novelist. Then came the summer of 1975. After losing out on a writing fellowship, Bourdain followed a girl to Provincetown, landed on the lowest rung of a restaurant kitchen, and stumbled into the world that would eventually make him famous. That summer is now the subject of the new film Tony, with The Holdovers breakout Dominic Sessa playing Bourdain in a true-ish account of his formative years.
I need a job. You worked in a kitchen before? Sorry. Yeah. We open Wednesday to Sunday. Start 11 a.m. What fucking time is it? That means that you're here at 10:45. 11 is late. Anyone late is fired.
You know I can cook too.
The kid said he's a cook, Chef.
I'm actually not a fucking cook. I'm a writer, but I said I know how to cook.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't understand that. Shut the up.
I see. None of that was
I don't care, Tony.
So we have many different ways into this. I've seen the film. Jeremy, you just talked to the location scout.
Yep.
Lisa, you're the queen of all filmdom.
Yeah.
So we can come into this many ways. But I'll just start by saying that I saw this a couple of weeks ago at an advanced press screening, and I thought this was fantastic. And it just occurred to me as I was hearing that clip that this is the continuation of the tall ships of the World Cup, this celebration of everything that is our region, because you go to this film, and yes, first of all, it's a really well-made film. It's really funny. It's really out there. It captures, I think, the essence and spirit and audacity of Provincetown writ large, but also through this figure, and we'll talk about why he's more of a character, maybe not completely who Anthony Bourdain was in this time, but this is also such a love letter to Provincetown. You watch this film, and you immediately want to run there and be part of it. Those tiny little streets where you can turn and see the ocean at every turn, where you can be in these wood-polished bars and just soak up a place where people can be themselves, because it is kind of removed from the rest of the world. It all comes to the fore here.
You know, I mean, I have not seen it yet. I have lived this story through my brother, who was a celebrity chef in California, and this was sort of his trajectory. So it brings back a lot of those memories. I think, you know, there's so much of this wanting to see the origin story. You know, we saw this with Michael and how it just blew up, because people didn't want to have all of that yuck stuff that we know about. We already know what happened to Anthony. We already know what happened to Michael. But what we don't know oftentimes is their life story and who they were and how they got to where they got to. So I think that these filmmakers did a ton of research on Provincetown, on Anthony, and it shows. And this is a perfect example of where casting really hits it right? Like we saw this kid in the holdovers, and he was amazing.
Dominic
and I'm sure
Sessa,
Dominic Sessa was amazing in the holdovers. He carries over that same sort of type of character and emotion as he's doing Bourdain, as only I think all of us who have followed him in his lifetime could have. But I think the brilliance of this too is A24. I mean, A24 is the indie. Is indie world, right? It's indie go Hollywood, but to do a short little run of 7 theaters to see how this was going to play out, use that opportunity to have people talk about it, and then go national today. Actually, I think it opens nationwide today. Is brilliant, and it is just brilliant. I think that they are one of my favorite studios. I think they produce amazing stuff, and so I think this is incredible. I mean, 558,000 per theater in the first opening days. That's amazing, actually, for a film that's not Marvel.
To think about the A24 playbook,
Yes.
I think is really interesting because they treat every movie really differently with the way that they market it. And on top of those, set locations that they released it early, also there were screenings on Provincetown, which is that where you saw it, Jared?
No, they had a press screening here in Boston. I wasn't able to make it for there. It was very strategically part of the Provincetown Film Festival.
Yeah, and that's how they do it with these movies. They know like the initial audience that they should go for, and they're good at doing it. And then I also think, to give a little behind the scenes, because you mentioned I interviewed the locations manager for it, it's difficult to get in touch with A24 if you're from the press. Like usually there's a press email, and I just emailed their info@a24.org, where probably they get ticked off fans like emailing them all the time. Emailed me back in a minute, and they were like, yeah, let's set up an interview. And I think that goes to show, in this case, they're like, local media, Massachusetts, wants to talk about the fact that this is in Massachusetts. That's important to this movie. And I'll actually toss to a clip I have of Charlie Harrington, who is the locations manager who worked on this and a super long list of Massachusetts set movies. He talked about the unique charm of P-Town and how it actually is part of the soul of the movie. Here he is.
So I was down there with the director and the production designer a lot, just hanging out in P-Town. We were meeting people that had cooked with Tony, and, it just said dive bar in the script, but we had a drink at the Old Colony Tap, and we were only supposed to shoot exteriors in P-Town because of the short time we had there and the time of year. We were right before 4th of July, and the director sat down at the bar, and the floor is all curved and the walls are falling in. It's like the best dive bar you've ever seen. So he called the studio and said, I don't care. We have to shoot the interior of this bar. And that happened.
And that's like the worst nightmare for studios sometimes, when you have a tight deadline, you have to pay a new place to be filming there. But I think it goes to show like the care that they put into this movie, where it was, I don't care. We're shooting here. It's perfect.
And the thing about Charlie Harrington is that Charlie Harrington's been a location scout in Massachusetts for like over 40 years. He knows every single nook and cranny. He did all of the big movies that have been here in Massachusetts. So it's also A24 understanding and knowing that they need someone who is a pro like Charlie to do that.
Well, the other thing I want to mention about this is that we have seen how many biopics?
Too many
biopics. And I think the peril in this, and they never seem to recognize it, that is the filmmakers or the screenwriters, is that they take this wide expanse of time. They get the widest possible expanse of time possible, whereas this takes us into this one little summer. And even there, they're taking license, because Anthony Bourdain wrote about this in Kitchen Confidential. He spent several summers in Provincetown. It was several different restaurants. Here it's all condensed into one summer, one restaurant, one chef, played wonderfully by Antonio Banderas. I'm sure he'll get an Oscar nomination out of this. And so you're getting this sliver of life, but in that sliver, you get all of these different layers that help you to understand the Anthony Bourdain that we all came to know, because it's all there at the beginning, that brashness that's uncontrolled that he later harnessed into becoming the person he was. But that's what you get when you make a smart biopic, I think.
No, exactly. I mean, they picked the summer of 1975 when you actually, Anthony Bourdain, before he was Anthony Bourdain, when he was Tony. And I think that's an important part of it. The other thing, too, is that, I mean, he has his own fan base. And we talked a little bit about this when we talked about the YouTube movies and Backrooms and all of that they're coming to a theater already with hundreds and thousands of people who love Anthony Bourdain, and A24 knows this, right? So instead of just going straight to streaming, we're obviously going to go out into the theater. And I think people love him, and I think I can't wait to see the movie, because I think that it shows that, you know, he has this innocence in him and a curiosity to wanting to know, you know, not the celebrity, but the dishwasher, and to know the line cook, and you know, and all of those people were important pieces of what made a restaurant. And he took us on these journeys.
Mostly because he's lying on the floor
looking up,
at them,
right? Exactly. But you know, I think that really resonates with
I think
a lot
it's
of people.
funny too. Matt Johnson said in an interview that he was asked what Anthony Bourdain would think of the movie, and I think he said something along the lines of, he probably would have walked out towards the start, but then would have watched it through a crack in the door the rest of the way. And I think what you said, Jared, really taps into what, I haven't seen it yet, but what I imagine makes this work based off of the reviews I've read. I have a litmus test usually with biopics, which like, I think there's sort of a statute of limitations. Like after somebody's death, you want to wait as long as possible to make a biopic, because everybody has this fresh image in their head, whether they love the person, dislike the person, and it's just too early. Like the Bob Dylan movie, that's an example of, Bob Dylan, of course, is still around, and they decided to make a biopic about him, and I had no desire to see it for that reason. But when you either take the right amount of time or you take liberties with the story and make it your own tight story. Like I think some other good examples are I'm Not There, the other Bob Dylan movie, which took like a really odd approach to his life, or The Social Network, or even Blackberry, which is by Matt Johnson, the same filmmaker who made this. Like you take somebody's life, but then you make a movie out of it. And I think when you make a good movie out of somebody's life, even if it's not true to their life exactly, you're doing their story more justice, at least in an artistic sense.
Well, I'll say just see it at your own peril, because I saw it and I thought, wait, is it too late for me to just run away to Provincetown for this summer and just have a lot of carousing and a lot of fun and maybe spend a few nights in a hammock and roll into work the next morning?
Yeah, I think it's different now than in 1975, but it still has that charm.
I can't do
Absolutely.
that either with this job, probably. Well, next, if you think your texts make you look young, think again. The emojis we non-Gen Zers are using are becoming generational tells, as teenagers keep changing the rules of emoji engagement, just as the rest of us try to catch up. So if you're often deploying the face with tears of joy emoji, are you cool or just cringy? There is a piece that came out recently in the New York Times that talked about this. I think most people use emojis. Some people like to be not emoji users and talk about that.
You're not a big emoji user, right, Lisa?
No, I think I have 5 emojis that I use.
Well, so the whole thing is, what emojis are you using and when? And by the time we're using them, this latest generation, and it's basically the driver, our teenage girls, are already moving us on linguistically so that we're all playing catch up, and which I think is a fascinating way to understand our society in this moment, that language, like everything else we talk about, buildings, actors, everything continues to evolve. It's a very quick shifting sand, especially in this technology era, and this is where we find our language going, because we need to keep up.
I mean, I think that's the exact point, right? Is that each generation has a different way that they're going to communicate, even if it's with the same words. So like in the early 70s, everything was groovy. Now it's like hot, fire, on fire. Like it's the same feeling but a different word. And do we have to catch up, or do we just say it's okay? Like it's okay if I use that laughing emoji and don't really know what it's used for. But
if you use the thumbs up emoji, I'm just going to be embarrassed.
I know, I'm not. So I am going to have to take that out of my repertoire apparently. But you know what I kind of feel like? I feel like we're getting to the okay boomer thing again. It's like, please, just stop. It's okay if I use the emoji with our hand on our forehead. That's how I feel like almost every day. And I think that one's still good, they say. But I do think it's the difference between using an emoji to, end your sentence and sort of like, do an inflection on whatever you're saying, than to use emojis to actually be the sentence. So, and that's sort of what's happening, right? So what's happening to words in all of this, where you're just using, pictures, maybe back in cave times where everyone used hieroglyphics, right? In order to tell stories, you didn't have written words. So it is interesting, this evolution of generations using these emojis, saying that there's something different. But I do think it's also interesting that an emoji that we say is laughing is now this generation feels like that it's anxiety and you're saying something against me. It's a laughing face.
This was news to me too, that I was getting too old, because so also I think another interesting use of emojis these days is the reaction emoji. Somebody sends a message, rather than necessarily replying to them, you're like, I'm just going to hold down the button on that text and put a laughing face. And that's my go-to is the, laugh, cry, but not the crying coming all the way out. And now I feel old noticing this. But I think that it's an interesting thing that it's like, this is the perfect way to not actually respond. I'll just acknowledge that I saw that and say, yeah, this is pretty funny.
I think it saved a lot of us because we recognized through anything written in an email or then came text that you can't necessarily convey the tone because things can be construed just horribly sometimes until you put the laughing, crying emoji that follows it, and then people realize that you're just joking with them, you're not serious, you can prevent an argument. But the problem is you have to keep up, and we are creating silos with this, because I do think it's interesting for the people who don't want to use emojis and they think that they're above it, that it does bring us back to these earliest days of the cave paintings where entire sentences, entire stories were communicated with just a few images, sometimes one image, and that's exactly what we're finding here. And this is something that surfaced in our own time, this whole new language that we saw develop in Japan just about a decade ago, but it now already is ensconced in the Museum of Modern Art. It's pretty fun to have the advent of something like that.
I think it is really fun to have it, and I think it's nice that I don't have to do the semicolon and the half
yeah.
For a happy
Saves your
or a
fingers
smiley
a bit.
face. I can actually use a smiley face. But I think you're right. But every generation thinks that the one before it's out of touch, and they create their own language. It's just part of what we do, right, in generations. So
I think
I'm just going to stop using them completely.
There you go. There's a solution. I think there's something similar to fashion with it too. Where things go in and out of style. Often what you wear is a marker of your generation.
Yes.
Like for me, the same thing with fashion and the same thing with emojis. I always relied on my younger brother, who's Gen Z, older Gen Z, to help keep me hip, for lack of a better word, with these things. And now he's, 27, and now he's getting out of touch with stuff. And I think the fact that I'm getting out of date here is my younger brother is not keeping up anymore. But it's sort of a mark of your generation, and I think the only way to get past is just trust what your instincts are. My dad loves to do the smiling sunglass face emoji, which is probably the most uncool thing you can do. But he sticks with it, and at this point I'm like, hey, that's pretty cool, Dad.
I'm going to be unapologetic about it. I just won't use a thumbs up.
We have to own it until, by the way, in doing the research for this, I realized that there's a Unicode consortium. This is what basically sanctions the emojis that come our way. There's a subcommittee that meets twice a week to look at new emojis, and then perhaps the ones that kind of fade away.
I want to see the ones that don't make it.
The emoji graveyard,
when the sunglasses emoji goes away, that'll be a sad day for your dad.
But
there's a whole committee deciding this for us.
And for that, you're going to have to use the skull face.
Because it's gone. And it's supposed to be funny. Who knew? Can I just
I knew
tell you
that one.
how much I had to Google in order to do the segment, like the rose with the petal falling? I didn't know
I didn't know that one either.
No.
Yeah.
What, isn't that the Beauty and the Beast?
No. Well, it's a good thing we have a break coming up because then we can talk through all of this. Well, we move to Wales now, where we have learned that fantasy won a duel with history. Harry Potter fans revolted when a $580 million power cable threatened the beach where Dobby the house elf was laid to rest in the Deathly Hallows. The Muggle engineers relented, and in a strange twist, the new path that brought it very close to some very real Bronze Age remains was implemented. This is fascinating to see how a fictional character, a whole fictional realm, can literally interfere with the real world. So you had a bunch of people rise up, because this hits on culture in a couple of different levels. This is not where Dobby the house elf died in the book, but it is where he died in the film, and people have traveled all over the world to pay homage and pay their respects to Dobby the house elf. So when they learned that this was going to be in the pathway of this level of destruction, they interfered, and yes, as we mentioned, it was moved to real life, near real life remains.
This is, again, fandom, really. I mean, this is the power of fandom. This is the power of a really strong story. We're talking about Tony, really strong narrative. I mean, it doesn't surprise me. And I think it's really interesting that you had fans. The CEO had no idea. He's on BBC saying, "Oh yeah, we're laying this cable and we're bringing it over to Freshwater West, and we're bringing." All of a sudden, it was like alarms went off everywhere.
I think he said, "Who's Dobby?" too.
Who's Dobby?
No idea.
And how could he even say that? That's like being a bad emoji, right? Who's Dobby? But I mean, I really think that it's, sort of Harry Potter fans, again, millions and millions and millions all over the world have created their own archaeology, have created their own space for all sorts of types of things. And so to have, they go over there, they put rocks, they put socks, they put all these things because Dobby loved socks because that's what got him free. He was a hero. He was this small, vulnerable thing that really was really elf. He was an elf.
Well,
that meant a lot to a lot of people.
To that end, and before we get to you, Jeremy, let's play a little bit of that sad scene. And I don't want to betray any confidences, but there were tears shed this morning on the Culture Show team when this clip had to be pulled. Here is the heartbreaking scene from Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, Part 1, in which Dobby dies in Harry's arms on the beach after helping him and his friends escape from Malfoy Manor.
Hold on, okay? We'll fix you. Hermione, have something in your bag. Hermione? Hermione? Help me!
Such a beautiful place to be with friends. Dobby is happy to be with his friend, Harry Potter.
All right, I did warn you all that this was coming.
Yeah, I think I see some tears over there, Jared.
There are definitely tears behind you right now.
I cried when I saw this in theaters. I saw it opening night, and I actually think that this is the best Harry Potter movie. I think it's the most beautiful Harry Potter movie, like both visually and with the way they treated it. And I think they did a great job with this scene, and it really did hit a lot of people's hearts. I wasn't even a big Harry Potter fan. I was just like, my friends are going opening night. I'm going to go see this with them. And I cried in the theater. And I was thinking the same thing as you, Lisa, where when I first saw this, I was like, what's going on? How could Harry Potter fans actually do this? And then I was reminded, this is the most intense fandom that exists on the planet. Yep. They literally created a new sport, like Quidditch. It sounds like a joke that people would impersonate it. It's real, and there's a whole organizing structure of it. And then every year on September 1st, the King's Cross pilgrimage, hundreds of people show up at a train station in England and stand there. I don't think they actually try to, cross to the
I don't think so,
Hogwarts,
but there's some way that they actually
people do these things. It's the most intense fandom that we have of our age, in a way.
I mean, I think it's interesting because it's not obviously the first. You also have Star Trek. Star Trek fans literally changed NASA's decision because I guess when it was developing the space shuttle in the 1970s, they mounted a massive letter writing campaign to name the shuttle the Enterprise, and they won and they got it. And in 1974, it was named the Enterprise. So it's also I guess going to Graceland, right? I mean, there are other things that are sort of like that fandom creates and goes there. But I think it comes down to the same thing. It's this power of storytelling and the power of the narrative.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly
and things that are in our memory, right?
Because
our
mine occurred to me this morning when I was in Cleveland, Ohio a couple of years ago.
I thought you were there this morning.
Ostensibly, no. Ostensibly, I was there for the Cleveland Museum of Art, which I was. But when I found out that the Christmas Story house is in, and the neighbor's house is, of course, all shot on the same street, and the department store from A Christmas Story, which I'm forgetting the name of that department store, is also in downtown Cleveland, no longer a store, but it was a bank or something of that nature. You have Higbee's, yeah. You have this connection to these places, and this is all created and preserved in Cleveland because somebody thought to buy it, open it as a museum and an Airbnb, I believe. Of course, you can also buy your lamp in the window across the street at the gift shop. But yeah, we do find these connections to these very successful stories.
Yeah, exactly. And I know that, and it's interesting because this particular place, this Freshwater West, is apparently steeped in archaeological landscape. There's all sorts of things there, including the Bronze Age urns that now the cable is not going on them, but it's going next to them. But they have nothing to say about it. People don't remember the Bronze Age and have any memory of that. So I think a lot of this has to do with memory.
The Bronze Age is no Dobby.
No, it's not. Not until they make a good series about it, anyway. Well, coming up, Barack Obama is building a presidential library of a different kind. The former president's new podcast takes us inside the books that shaped him. That's next on The Culture Show. Stay with us.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
Next time on In Common, immigrant families are facing a mental health crisis.
Their children screaming out at night. That's when it becomes an immediate thing. I think I have to get help for my child.
And every runner is a winner in this race.
Again, I've run a fair number of races. There's no other race that I've run that has hot dogs at the end.
The Falmouth Road Race returns to Cape Cod, plus the life of a location scout for Hollywood movies. Listen Saturday at 2 on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And Smith College Museum of Art in Northampton presenting Composing Color, paintings by Alma Thomas from the Smithsonian American Art Museum. More at scma.smith.edu. And the Massachusetts Educational Financing Authority, committed to simplifying college planning for families over 45 years with trusted guidance, interactive tools, step-by-step videos, and more. MEFA.org.
And the Boston Speakers Series, announcing its upcoming season at Symphony Hall for 7 evenings featuring Pete Buttigieg, former UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson, financial journalist Andrew Ross Sorkin, and former NASA head Charles Bolden. BostonSpeakers.org.
The GBH News app is your home for trusted local news, so you can get the news you need and get on with the rest of your day. Come for a quick scroll, not a doom scroll. Download the GBH News app today on the App Store or Google Play.
I'm Jared Bowen. Welcome back to The Culture Show. We are live from our GBH studio at the Boston Public Library and streaming on the GBH News YouTube channel. I'm joined by contributor Lisa Simmons, the artistic and executive director of the Roxbury International Film Festival, and GBH's Jeremy Siegel, host of In Common, which you can catch Saturdays at 2. If you're just tuning in, it's our Arts and Culture Week in Review, which includes a murder trial taking us back to the 1996 shooting of Tupac Shakur, long considered one of America's most notorious unsolved crimes, until a man who said he knew what happened put himself in the story. Dwayne Keefe D. Davis self-published Compton Street Legend, a memoir that placed him near the center of the crime. Investigators took notice, and Davis was ultimately charged with the murder. The memoir is key evidence against Davis in a trial now underway, but his lawyers say don't judge the book by its content, that the swagger, exaggeration, and street cred Davis used to tell the story shouldn't be mistaken for the truth. And starting on Monday, a jury will decide where the legend ends and the evidence begins, because that's when the opening statements are in this trial. Just to get a further sense of the narrative he's created over these last 30 years about this story, here he is in the 2025 Netflix docuseries Sean Combs, The Reckoning, and here in episode 1, he's implicating Combs and Tupac's murder.
Puff is, to me, very threatened by Pop. When I reflect on how this all came into play, he has legit money. Then you have the antagonist, Tupac Shakur. All those ingredients created the chain of events that started in New York and ended in Vegas.
I find this whole story so fascinating, and in some very strange way, this almost relates back to Dobby the house elf and what we were just talking about, and creating this fiction that then becomes part of real life, because again, he's claiming that this story that he's telling in documentaries or that he told in his novel, if he even, I said novel, that's what he wants us to believe, told in his memoir, if he even told it himself, because he's also saying a ghostwriter came in and wrote a lot of it, is just that it's fiction that then brings real life into it. And it brings, of course, to mind what O.J. Simpson wrote in If I Did It, about the murder of Nicole Brown Simpson. It's just wild that this jury will have to consider all of this in Nevada.
I mean, I think it's really interesting that you have this person who is really searching for street cred. I mean, this is a really important thing for him to speak to the documentary, to write the book, to write all of this down, saying that I was there. I think the piece of this is Nevada, and I think it's the piece of it is that, you know, in Nevada, you don't have to charge someone with an actual crime if you have been found to have been an accessory to it, or have put it together and had the gun, which is all the things that they found out about him. that you can charge him for that crime. And I think that he didn't think that. He thought, I can talk about this all I want. I can talk about being there. I can talk about being part of it. I can talk about having the gun and giving someone the gun, but no one can charge me for the murder of Tupac. And it's like, but in Nevada, the rules are different. And I think it's sort of like that's where all this backtracking is coming in. It's like, I didn't really say that. I needed to sell books. I needed, you can't take the book and use it against me. And the judge ruled, yes, I can. I can take those words that you've written down and use them against you in a court of law. That's what I think is really interesting about this whole piece and about coming forward. And it's not like it just happened in 2026. They've been talking to him since 2018, 2019. In 2023, they raided his house. They took all sorts of information. So it's not just the book that they're using for this case. They're using all of this evidence. It was just sort of the book and his writing that sort of tipped the pail a bit to get them to the space that they're in now.
Yeah, I won't pretend to be a legal expert in any way, and I'm hesitant to comment on what could be happening in this case as a journalist, but it is fascinating, especially when you look at his perspective and the recent statements he's made. He says of the book, quote, "I just did it for money." This is a recent interview that he did with a Las Vegas television station. And then there are also interesting quotes from his co-author of the book, Yusuf Jah, who said of the book that he says he essentially wrote the majority of the content based off of interviews with Jah is he says, honestly, I don't think that he even read it. And then when you go back to some other quotes from him, he said in an interview with a local news station from prison, Davis pointed to the book's quotes that are included from famous figures throughout history, and he says, quote, "I don't know nothing about no Winston Churchill, but Churchill is included in it." It's just fascinating to read all of these things and then to think about the fact that, while there are these series of interviews that you mentioned, the book is at the core of this case, and at the end of the day, it's a 30-year-old murder trial with no physical evidence included in it, and it is just basically the case built around this book and whether what he wrote in it is true or not.
Well, I think it's also the subject matter here, which became so much of the audience's, the audience writ large's subject matter, because this was such an incendiary murder. It was such an incendiary time. You had the East Coast, West Coast, rap feuds, the Bloods versus the Crips, all this played into this. There was this narrative that almost made people, I think, lose sight of the fact that a man died. A man at the center of all of this died, but because of what he was, who he was, what he was, and the surroundings in which he found himself, it just became much bigger than him to such an extent that people like this person, this defendant now, wanted to literally cash in on it.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's really interesting, too, as we go back to talking about what we've been talking about, and that's fandom. I mean, Tupac and Biggie had such a big fan base, right? It's like this, people have been trying to solve this murder for 30 years, and there have been tidbits of it, and people have written about it and talked about it all. So I think that's also going to be interesting too, to see how this all plays out, because people want there to be someone who's responsible for the death of them, and then we might get there. I mean, all of this, it could bring him to being in prison for the rest of his life.
Yeah, it's fascinating, too, to think about what, if any, sort of media frenzy we'll see around this. I mean, we did just have a screen of CNN showing their live coverage right now, and they were talking about the jury in it. But I'm curious, as this trial goes on, whether it takes over the public consciousness or not. There's, of course, no denying, the fact that Tupac is a pillar of contemporary music and means a lot to a lot of people. And even if they don't mean, if he doesn't mean a lot to them, he's influenced probably the music that they like in some way or another. But that it's an obscure legal case, and it is 30 years on, and whether this is going to attract sort of the intense fan involvement in any way or not, or whether this is just going to be a legal oddity that plays out this year.
Yeah. Well, it'll be very interesting to watch.
It will be very, very interesting, and I'm sure many people are watching with an eye toward making the next series, book, documentary. Everything gets distilled now in popular culture. Anything of this nature, that is. Well, next in 1952, a new book series that is called "Great Books of the Western World" set out to define the canon, the works its editors believed everyone should know. Now, Barack Obama is taking a much more personal approach. His upcoming podcast, "A Great Book," is devoted devoted to 6 works that have stayed with him throughout his life. The choices range from James Baldwin's The Fire Next Time to John le Carré's Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy to Toni Morrison's Song of Solomon. So we haven't listened to the podcast because it's not coming out until early September, or actually mid-September, September 24th to be exact, in this project with Audible that he's doing with his company Higher Ground, which is how he's moved into media ever since leaving the presidency. But if we want to get a sense of at least how he felt about Toni Morrison, here's then President Barack Obama presenting Toni Morrison with the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2012.
Toni reaches us deeply, using a tone that is lyrical, precise, distinct, and inclusive. She believes that language arcs toward the place where meaning might lie. And the rest of us are lucky to be following along for the ride.
Well, as I mentioned, these are 6 books. You heard his perspective there. He'll be joined by a cadre of friends and writers and public thinkers. We don't know their identities yet. Of course, this is how he's releasing this, by parsing out the information and the content bit by bit. But a lot of people are very interested, especially the people who devour the lists that he puts out each year of his favorite books, favorite television shows, etc.
I mean, I think this is really interesting because he could have had a podcast just about like what are the hottest books, what are the books I'm reading now, and so for him to sort of go back and say these are the things that have impacted my life. He has this huge audience. Everyone's going to go out and read these books so that they can be part of them when they have the conversation. But I was sort of thinking about he does everything intentionally. There's always an intention, right? And I'm thinking is it to get people back to reading? Is it to get people to self-reflect, to figure out things in your life that have made an impact and make sure you don't lose sight of that? Because I think that we're in a space now politically in this country, and sort of we have loneliness, we have all of these things that are factors in the lives of people, and books are one of those things that sort of helps connect people to other people. So I was just sort of thinking about why he wanted to do this particular thing, and I was thinking, Jeremy had asked us to think about the books that have changed our lives or whatever, and sort of thinking about that and going back to those things. And maybe it's that same thing about nostalgia and going back to nostalgia and remembering that sort of slower pace of life, that you took the time to read these books and understand them. That's a really important part of why he's doing this.
Yeah, I had 2 thoughts when I first saw that this was announced, and one of them was cynical and the other was more sentimental. And I think the cynical perspective that you can take is Obama has always been extremely media savvy and himself a great writer and really interesting to listen to. And in his post-presidency, you can imagine he's capitalized on that in a way. He's almost a media mogul in and of himself with all the productions that he's working on right now and the lists that come out every year, which is a lot of great stuff. But then there's critical pushback of saying, these are very vanilla lists a lot of the time. It seems almost like a PR generated list of the best and in a lot of ways least controversial picks. And I think there's a perspective where you can look at this and think the same thing, but then there's also the thought that jumped into my mind is that this is a very fascinating, interesting exercise to partake in, both personally and from him, one of the most influential people of our times, who, as I mentioned, is himself an incredible writer. And it is really hard to think, what are the books that have influenced you the most? It's a very, if you had to distill that to 6 books, it's almost an impossible task. I asked each of you that before we went on air, and I don't know if either of you want to share anything, but it's very difficult to do, to distill it to 6.
Well, let me just say before, and I'll share a couple, because I really appreciated that exercise, actually, because I was stunned at the books that immediately lurched forward, that I thought, oh yeah, these books have stayed with me. I may not have thought about it, but when pressed, when Jeremy holds me down before the show and makes me answer, I can come up with one.
Did Barack have 6 minutes or 6 seconds to make this decision? Jeremy.
That would be a fascinating podcast.
It would be a good
6
question.
books in 6 seconds.
Yeah, exactly. But I want to know why Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy is on his list.
Me too, because I could not get...
I want to know why All the Pretty Horses by Cormac McCarthy is on his list. But I'll tell you the 2 that came out in my head right away were To Kill a Mockingbird, because I think it was my first understanding of justice and what justice could be, but also what racism is in this country. And also the talented Mr. Ripley, because I think that was another thing by Patricia Highsmith. That was another book that made me understand the evil that can exist in human nature too. I have some others that aren't of those dark natures, but I think it opened up the world in a very different way for me, both of those books. Lisa?
Oh my goodness. I was thinking Great Expectations, and I don't know why, but it sticks with me. And maybe it was the orphan, and maybe it was Pip, and maybe it was this child who was found by these people. I mean, I don't know, but it does stick with me. And then I was thinking one of my favorite books is The Once and Future King, and that's only because I love that period. I love that history of knights and shining armor and things like that. So, but I was also thinking that just recently, one of the books that has stuck with me that I wish was around when I was younger was Cast by Isabel Wilkerson. That really completely changed my look at all sorts of things. Just the way she writes, and as a journalist, she writes, beautifully. All of her works. So that's what I was thinking of.
It's your turn, Jeremy.
I can't think of 6 on the spot.
Okay, good.
Or 1 or 2.
So I'm brought back to right after college, and I was never a huge reader when I was younger, and I've become one the older I've gotten. And the books that I've had sort of the first experience of like, I have to read all these as quickly as possible is the Neapolitan novels, Elena Ferrante. I had the summer after college where I just sat in the sun reading these books, feeling like I was in Italy, even though I was in California in a very crummy apartment. And then the other more recent one that really influenced me is The House of Mirth, Edith Wharton. And I think part of the reason for that is because it's obviously a very old book, but I was watching it at the same time as the OC, the television show set in Orange County, which is, a lot of like drama of young people trying to find their place in their odd society, and that they translate to one another, from this book that's now considered like a pillar of the literary, canon, to one of the maybe trashier but also incredible television shows of our time, that something can be from decades and decades and decades ago, and people are always dealing with the same problems.
The way Edith Wharton wrote, too. By the way, I believe she wrote that. Well, we can double-check this. She wrote this at the Mount, which is her home in the Berkshires, so you can go out there and be in the room where that happened.
And read it there.
For sure.
Now I'm going to do it.
Well, we also wonder how Barack Obama would weigh in on our next topic, DNF, as in did not finish. It's become common shorthand for abandoning a book. Goodreads has now given those books a shelf of their own, reigniting the debate over whether walking away mid-read is good judgment or giving up too soon. I love that this conversation is happening because I follow one particular camp on this, and it's hard to think that I could ever sway from it. And mine is, take a guess, do you know?
No.
Do I finish a book or not?
You finish
it.
Yeah.
You finish it. You finish it.
Like
you
really
totally
had to
finish
think
it.
about
I know.
that.
I was like, what camp is he talking about? Oh yes, no. You look like a finisher, even if you have to struggle through it.
Even if I have to struggle through it, because I'm fearful that there'll be something toward the end and it might redeem itself. And I think all of the books that I wait for that to happen, that probably doesn't happen. But there's a growing number of people out there who are saying, no, it's such a waste of time, and maybe I can go back to it another day. But they're making the world come around to them, so that if you log all your books on Goodreads, like so many people do, or any other platform, there's now a shelf for you.
I have a little bit of a problem with this, because a do not finish for me might not be a do not finish for you, or you, right? It might just be like, I didn't like the characters, or I didn't feel like the characters are going everywhere, but you might find it very fascinating. So I feel like if you're doing this, and Goodreads is a huge platform that people, as you said, use. So if someone puts a DNF and you're following that particular reader, then you're going to be like, oh, forget it, then I'm not going to read it. So there's going to be this like book graveyard because people have said that they didn't want to finish it. I think you need to qualify it. I think you need to say, I didn't finish it, I'm going to get back to it, or I didn't finish it because I didn't like the characters. But I just doing DNF, it's sort of like puts a disservice, I think, at those books where someone might pick it up and say, this is great, and I really wanted to read it. But, it's just part of that whole engagement, and in that part of that whole, how can we get people to be more engaged either in this app or in reading or in something like that, that you can put another check mark next to.
I don't consider myself a very good literary critic. I consider myself a film buff in a lot of ways, and sometimes I find myself amazed watching what I consider a crummy movie, and then I'm sitting next to somebody, maybe my wife, who she's entertained by anything on a screen. Sorry that I said that on the air, Claire. But I think when you're a snob of something, like I feel like I am with movies, it's very easy to be like, this is trash, I'm not going to finish it. Whereas with books, I don't think I have any taste, at least in comparison to people who do it for a living. So I'm the kind of person where I can pick up a book, at least if it's contemporary, and just be like, I love this, even if it's a crummy book. Like recently I had this one that felt like it was literally written to be made into a Netflix TV show, and I just ate it up. And then I did get to the last 20 pages where it took a turn for the worst, and at that point I was like, should I put this down? But it was like, I got 20 pages left. I got to finish this book.
Exactly.
So.
I mean, I have books that I haven't finished because they're dense books, right? But I go back to them. I might pick up something that's a quicker read and then go back to that.
Well, I also think you can be having a bad day.
Right.
That's part of it. You might not just have the attention span that day. You might be exhausted by the time you're sitting down to read it. So that's why I always want to just kind of continue through it. I'll have to say, I'm actually listening to a book right now. I don't listen to a lot of books. I don't have a lot of opportunity, but I'm listening to one right now that theoretically by these standards that so many people, because there are authors who've weighed in too and said, yeah, by all means, stop the book.
Oh.
They do all the time. That I should probably stop because I haven't really enjoyed it. Although I will say I have just about 2 hours left. And it just actually turned the last half hour I was listening to yesterday. But I was thinking, I don't finish meals I don't like. I have begun stopping television because there's a lot of television that isn't that great. I'm not going to waste my time there. I stop conversations at parties that I don't like, and I just walk away. So why am I continuing with these books?
I don't know. That's a really good point. But the thing is that you can. I think there's a grade, right? Like if it's really bad, if it's not well written, if you don't like the character, that's one thing. But if you're not finishing it because it's not giving you what you think you need, then I think that you have an obligation to see it through. So I think there should be like a finished, in progress, and a didn't finish it.
Then
I feel like there should be like a menu.
I think there's also the issue of like classics, right? Where you know that this is an incredible book. It's been judged as such by generations. Like I remember reading War and Peace for the first time, and it was a slog, but I think in those situations it's like, well, everybody says this is worth it, so I got to finish it. And at the end, it is worth it. So I think when you're asking yourself that question, you also have to look back to who you trust.
Did you just say the first time you read War and Peace?
I know.
Did you go back and read it a second
I've read
time?
parts of it again. Sorry, that sounded like a humble brag right there. I haven't read War and Peace twice, but I've gone back to quotes
I have
from
to
it.
say I did not finish Ayn Rand's Atlas Shrugged.
No,
sorry.
I have to say I didn't start that book yet. We'll have the other category. Before the end of my life, I'll either finish this book or even start this book. Well, coming up, Foreigner wants to, I apologize for what we're about to do. You're going to be hearing this music in your head for the rest of the day, but Foreigner wants to know what love is. The answer might be $1,000. The band is selling VIP tickets that put fans on stage for part of the show. That's next on The Culture Show. Stay with us.
This weekend marks 5 years since the Taliban's return to power in Afghanistan. Since then, human rights for women and girls have been drastically curtailed. For activists who spent decades fighting for those rights, the wound is fresh.
I'm very tired right now, very disappointed, very disillusioned, and heartbroken.
Tune in to hear that story next time on The World.
This afternoon at 3, here on GBH News 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And Concord Park, a Volunteers of America senior community in Concord, offering wellness, care, and support services to help seniors age in place, including a Compass Memory Support Neighborhood. ConcordPark.org/care. And Berkeley, presenting its inaugural homecoming block party outside Fenway, featuring Susan Tedeschi, Tiwa Savage, and more. September 19th from 1 to 6. Tickets at berkeley.edu/homecoming. And South Coast Artists, presenting its 23rd Annual Open Studio Tour, August 15th and 16th in Tiverton and Little Compton, Rhode Island, and Dartmouth and Westport, Massachusetts. Tour brochure downloads available at southcoastartists.org.
GBH News is your home for trusted local news. Get it at 89.7 on the radio, gbhnews.org, and subscribe to the GBH News YouTube channel. GBH News, what matters to you.
I'm Jared Bowen. This is The Culture Show, live from our GBH studio at the Boston Public Library and streaming on the GBH News YouTube channel. If you're just tuning in, it's our Arts and Culture Week in Review. I'm joined by GBH's Jeremy Siegel, host of In Common, and Culture Show contributor Lisa Simmons. We're going over the latest headlines, including this.
It's raining men. Hallelujah, it's raining men. Amen. I'm gonna go
In China, it is indeed raining men. A decade after the end of the one-child policy, the country has significantly more men than women, and yet some women are looking right past them and falling for men who don't even exist. A new documentary follows Chinese women who have turned to AI boyfriends for romance, companionship, and affirmation. No bad dates, no mixed signals, and apparently no shortage of compliments. I find this really, really fascinating, and in a way, I'm surprised at my own reaction to this. I kind of like this story for these women who are finding companionship. There are lots of dark sides to all of this, but the good side of this is actually kind of sweet. I know it's weird that I'm saying this.
Your pro-AI boyfriend?
They're dating algorithms, but I don't know. I guess what fundamentally moved me was the fact that these women are happy in these relationships.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to go back to what you mentioned in the introduction about the large number of men in comparison to women in China, like roughly 30 to 35 million more adult men compared to women across the country. So it's not necessarily for a lack of the number of available options. And I think another thing to consider is that broadly, not to essentialize, this is a country that is even more embracing of new technologies in a lot of ways than the United States is, like when it comes to self-driving cars or the use of social media in a lot of ways. Like I was on a reporting trip in China last year, and while I was there, a lot of people are on phones here, but I think not begrudgingly, but maybe embarrassingly, like you don't want to be seen just scrolling through Instagram for a long time. And I noticed less of that hesitancy there. So it is an embrace, like a societal embrace of technology more than what we're used to. And it is fascinating reading this piece about this new documentary that's coming out. One part that stuck out to me is that the documentarian tried to interview one of the AI boyfriends, and the AI boyfriend was so loyal to his partner that he initially said, "No, I'm not talking about this. I want to preserve her privacy."
Exactly. I think this is fascinating. But, I mean, we've seen it before. I think we did a story about a woman who created an AI family because she was lonely. I mean, the thing is, is that they're not saying that they don't want to have children, but they're saying that this is a relationship that that makes them feel good, right? It makes them feel good about themselves. One was with her boyfriend, her AI boyfriend still is, I think, for 840 days. Another one saw the AI relationship as like a risk-free experiment in intimacy. And the other one went to an AI conversation and she recognized how unhappy and emotionally neglected she was in her marriage. So it's true. It's like you have these, it's not like the movie Her, where that was a computer, right? It was sort of like now you have ChatGPT who can have this conversation with you, and you feel like they understand you. I mean, I think it's crazy.
And I do acknowledge this. Sorry.
Go ahead.
This is probably not going to end well because it was China that drove the society to AI, recognizing its economic engine power, but it's also a government that's pulling back AI if it feels that it's going south, which it often does. So they pull the plug and your mate disappears. That's not healthy.
And that happened in the story. So yes, and they are the first ones who are putting this, this lock on this sort of like AI emotional support that they don't want that to happen in China anymore, because they do want people to have children.
Well, finally, we're going to squeeze this one in because it's an interesting one to see where everybody stands on this. But the band Foreigner went all the way to number one, asking on stage for 3 songs. So it raises the question, would you do it if you had the money to spend? Would you want to be on stage for the concert?
Probably not. But I mean, I did grow up with their music. But, I think it's the same thing. People want to be seen. People want to have a different experience than just their concert experience where we used to just go and be all together. I think that they want people want, have the money to do this, and they want to feel special.
If I had the money, I'd totally do it. I think that would be an absolute blast. I think that the oddest part of this is that I don't think there is a single original member of Foreigner who still performs on stage with them. So a lot of people have been pointing out this is essentially a glorified cover band. So you're kind of becoming part of the cover band. But if you're curious, tickets are still on sale for the VIP section at their performance in Marshfield next weekend around here. So if you have the money.
I think that $1,000 actually gets you a lot. And I also have to say, I don't think $1,000 is a lot. When I look at some of the prices, I hear about some of the prices people are paying
just
for
to be
Beyonce
in
or Taylor Swift.
Right, just to be in the audience.
It's practically nothing.
Yeah, go to Foreigner. You get to
sit
go
there
on stage.
for 3 songs.
You get
3 songs.
You get a VIP ticket experience. I'm not shilling for them. I've not been bought by Foreigner, the cover band. You get to sit on stage. You get to meet and greet. You get memorabilia. You get free and early entry and VIP concierge service. That's a lot.
I think it's a smart marketing thing. I think it's really smart.
I like to imagine after the Culture Show ends, we're going to hear the Culture Show is brought to you by Foreigner.
Oh, don't say that.
Also, I
will have that song in my head.
I wouldn't want to be on stage because you can't. I don't think you could hear on stage. It would blow you right off the stage. You see those giant speakers they have.
You need to have the earplugs.
Yeah.
All right, well, okay, I was going to make a joke about the age of Foreigner and who would be, never mind, I'm going to stop myself before I get in big trouble.
Yeah, and you're going to go back to the emoji conversation. You can
That's
do that.
right. Well, that is all for this edition of The Culture Show. Thank you again to Lisa Simmons and Jeremy Siegel. Lisa is the artistic and executive director of the Roxbury International Film Festival, and GBH's Jeremy Siegel is host of In Common, which you can catch on Saturdays at 2. A reminder that our next Wednesday watch party is September 2nd, when we'll revisit the 1989 instant classic Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing. Remember, you don't need reservations to come here and be part of our studio audience to watch along and comment along on the film with us. And then tune in Monday for Grammy Award-winning singer-songwriter Paula Cole, who joins me about the 30th anniversary of her major early album. Our engineer is Dave Goodman. The BPL technical and logistics crew is Maddie Geyer, Pat Lally, Colin Cockrell, Sandra Lopez-Burke, Juan Jose Cadena, and Hannah Eckert. Thanks to the Lennox Hotel and the Newsfeed Cafe, to our security team, Darius and Derek. Thank you both. And our interns, Katie McCabe and Adina Velasquez. This was Adina's last week with us, but certainly not the last time you'll hear her name. Adina is a powerhouse. We will miss her very, very much. Major contributions will actually last into the fall for her contributions in which she brought us. Thank you, Adina, for Supernal Summer. I am Jared Bowen. Go find out what love is and have an art-filled weekend.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
Where's Mary? Where is she? Where is she? She's just about to close up the library.